32 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance. Pursuant to the committee's motion adopted on Friday, February 5th, 2021, the committee is meeting to study all aspects of COVID-19 spending and programs. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order January 25th, and therefore members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website so that witnesses are aware, members certainly already are. The webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. I would remind folks to try and keep their mic off when you're not speaking. And for witnesses, if you want to add a comment to somebody's question, even if it's directed elsewhere, just raise your hand and I'll try and catch you. If I miss you, you'll have to put on your mic and yell. With that, we do have a couple of orders of business, and so I'm going to split them and do one with this panel and one with the other before we go to witnesses. The order of business that we must deal with is the budget for C14. The hearings we already completed. So the request for the project budget, just to name it, Bill C14, an act to implement certain provisions of the economic statement tabled in Parliament November 30th, 2020, and other measures. The amount requested is $5,025. Does somebody want to move that motion?
Je peux bien.
Okay, Mr. St. Marie and Ms. Zerowitz. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. If always things could be so simple. All right, turning to the witnesses, welcome to the witnesses appearing before us today. We appreciate you coming in this new setup, kind of virtually. We'll start with Mr. Paquette, who's with the Alliance of Tourism Industries of Quebec. The floor is yours, and if witnesses could try and hold their remarks to about 5 minutes, it leaves more time for questions. Mr. Paquette, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. It's a pleasure for me to appear before the committee here. Thank you for the invitation. With me is Mr. Jean-Monsieur Ryan, Chairman of the Board of the Alliance of Tourist Industries in Quebec. We'll be pleased to answer your questions later, of course.
English as well. L'Alliance de l'industrie touristique du Québec est le porte-voix.
The Alliance is the voice of 10,000 tourism companies, and they bring together over 40 regional sector partners. Its purpose is to promote and to foster the visibility of Quebec as a tourist destination internationally. The Alliance also created the Quebec Tourism Industry Conference, made up of 6 men and women who are all business leaders in tourism. The conference has also submitted numerous recommendations to government to support the tourism sector, which is one of the hardest hit sectors by the pandemic. Previously, we had a flourishing industry, $16 billion in tourism revenues, 30,000 companies, or 12% of the companies in Quebec, 402,000, that is 1 job out of 10 in the province, 3.5 billion in export revenues, that is the 6th largest export product in Quebec, 2.5% of the Quebec GDP, and $2 billion in tax revenues for the Quebec government. 2019 was a record year with tourism expenditures of $105 billion. Since the pandemic, the tourism industry in Quebec has recorded colossal losses, approximately $10.5 billion, and a net loss of 80,900 jobs only for lodging and restaurants. Today, 98% of the economic activity in Canada has rebounded. Nevertheless, the tourism sector has remained paralyzed, and the outlook for the future remains uncertain. Over the past year, the federal government programs such as the CEWS and CERS were very warmly welcomed by the tourism industry. In fact, they were a lifeline for a number of companies, and without these, no doubt, they would have had to close shop. These programs remain vital for the tourism industry and must be extended until 2022 to give them the necessary predictability to face the future. First of all, there is financial instability for most tourism organizations that have almost non-existent cash flows and are seeing unprecedented level of debts. And they need this only to come out of the crisis and not to fund new products or create strategic partnerships. Secondly, there's ongoing uncertainty regarding the evolution of this virus, which impacting travel and trips. We're seeing a continued shutdown of the borders, and this continues to destabilize the industry. More than 53% of tourism expenditures in Quebec come from tourists outside of Quebec. And thirdly, there's a labor shortage, which is already a major issue and has been exacerbated by the pandemic. In fact, currently, there is an exodus of know-how and experienced employees who are moving to other industries that are less impacted by the pandemic. In Quebec, 40,000 jobs have yet to be filled for the summer. It is therefore absolutely vital that these programs be extended. In fact, more specifically concerning the Canada rent subsidy, it's time for the government to enable the organizations to benefit from the lockdown support measures. That is 25% additional covered for fixed cost. Mr. Raymond Bachand, Minister of Finance in Quebec, says there are two ways to close a company. Either you force it to shut its doors or you force people to use its services or to go there. And clearly, in this last case, the closure of the borders, the ban on gatherings, travel restrictions as well, the fact that we cannot have meetings or conventions. There's a ban also on organizing school trips or sports tournaments, or all measures which have a direct impact on tourism. It prevents tourism organizations to operate normally or to operate at all. And I repeat this, the fact that the borders are closed deprives the industry from a majority of its revenues, and the other restrictions in place have reduced 25% of the sales in the industry, that is for lodging, attractions, and festivals and events. With respect to the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, in order to stop this exodus of qualified management personnel, we believe that this should be increased by 85%. Other than these programs, we believe that the federal government must also put in place a reopening plan which must provide for opening of the borders and have a schedule, and must provide safe traveling conditions for tourists. We invite government to work closely with our associations who work with these companies in order to explore possible solutions. And finally, it is vital that the government work hand in hand with the provinces in order to put in place public health rules that are standardized in order to foster travel throughout the country. And in closing, I would like to ask you to look at the letters that we sent to the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Freeland, through the Economic Conference, as well as our brief of the Alliance that we have tabled as part of their pre-budget consultations. They contain all of our recommendations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paquette. We will now turn to, as an individual, Victoria Morton. I'm not sure if you have an opening statement or not. Victoria, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hi there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I provided a statement in advance in writing, so I won't use 5 minutes here. I'll just quickly summarize a few quick points before passing it off to the committee. But I was an employee of We Charity from November 2018 to June 2020, first as a strategist, and then later moved to the executive office where I supported Craig on the road in Canada, US, and the UK. And then I also increasingly took on his social media and including perhaps most notably now his LinkedIn, which is what I assume has led to me being here today. I will just openly say that in advance that I don't have any insight or visibility then or now to We Day talent contracts, the Canada Student Service Grant, anything We Villages related, or really anything to do with finances or the structure of the organization. But with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morton. Turning then to Grant Thornton, LLP, Mr. Kevin Ladner, CEO, and Ms. Benham, National Tax Leader. Mr. Ladner, I assume it's you leading off. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And we would like to thank Chair Easter and the committee for the opportunity to present. We're here today to talk about the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. We commend Parliament for its quick action back in spring of 2020, enacting the first wage subsidy legislation within just 2 weeks of the pandemic being declared, and then following up with the more comprehensive Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy shortly thereafter, with several other amendments along the ways. The CEWS has been a lifeline, particularly for small and medium enterprises, which play a pivotal role in sustaining Canada's economy, and it continues to do great work in keeping the economy afloat and helping it grow. Our main concern is the lack of flexibility that remains in the program and the inability of Canadian businesses to access it if they miss the application deadline or make a mistake in their filing. Such inflexibility seems contrary to both the purpose of the program and also to the spirit of the Income Tax Act in which these rules are found. Our perspective is that the lack of flexibility is impacting deserving companies in need across Canada in every sector, whether it's hospitality, tourism, fishers, restaurant owners, manufacturers, designers, or construction workers. We are respectively requesting that Parliament introduce new legislation to allow for CEWS and CERS claims to be filed or amended past the deadline. We provided suggested wording for that legislation as an appendix to our original letter to Chair Easter. We also ask that such an extension applies similarly to the Canadian Emergency Rent Subsidy, given that it also has a hard deadline. I'll now pass the presentation over to Tara.
Tara, I believe you're muted.
Sorry.
We all do that.
Of course we do. We got to do it now. So thanks, Kevin. Let's look a little more closely at the issue. Currently, if the deadline is missed, the applicant loses 100% of the subsidy. There is no ability to amend the claim upward. So if the business finds that they've made a mistake, that would result in a larger claim. That opportunity is also gone once the deadline has passed. So to underscore this point, we want to provide you with 2 examples of some of the likely unintended consequences of not allowing these claims to be filed late. In Ontario, we have a client in the financial services industry who only realized at the last minute that they would qualify for CEWS. They reached out to us on very short notice to file their claim. Due to some recent turnover in their staff, they didn't realize they didn't have online access set up. So although we attempted to get it set up, it was too last minute and we were unable to file the claim on time. So as a result, this business lost out on the support for 129 employees. Another business in the software development industry in Quebec, they prepared their own claim. And the owner thought that he had to deduct $25,000 from his CEWS claim for every period between March and June, to which he also got the temporary wage subsidy. So he reduced his claim by a total of $75,000. However, the maximum temporary wage subsidy is only $25,000. So he was actually entitled to an additional $50,000 of CEWS. He realized this mistake in late February, which was of course past the due date. So because the deadline was passed, it was too late to amend his claim and he lost out on that $50,000 worth of support. So the legislation and the accounting for CEWS is complex and it's new. In the 12 months since the pandemic began, small and medium-sized enterprises across Canada have been focusing intently on keeping their businesses running and keeping their employees employed, not on their accounting. So we have only provided examples of missed CEWS filings at this point because the first filing for CERS has not passed. However, it too has similar complex legislation and hard deadlines. Therefore, it's a given that there will be misses in this program as well. So we do recognize that given the rapidly changing nature of this legislation, the introduction of this deadline rigidity may have simply been an oversight. Both However, both existing legislation and jurisprudence support the ability to file tax returns, elections, forms, etc., past the applicable deadlines. We ask for this same treatment for CEWS and CERS. We all know that these programs are finite. They won't be around forever. Therefore, if we don't fix them now, many Canadian businesses may never recover. So in summary, we respectfully recommend that the CEWS and CERS legislation be amended to allow for some type of late filing. This will reflect the intent of the legislation, and it will help more Canadian businesses keep their employees working. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Benham, Ms. Ladner. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly. What's the point of order?
I really didn't want to interrupt any witness, but Ms. Morton mentioned an opening statement that was, or a written statement. I have not received one, and I know that sometimes it's an issue of translation or an inability to get it to members ahead. I just want to confirm that with the clerk that if the clerk believes that it's been circulated, I haven't received it, but if it was not circulated, I just wanted to flag that. So
I'll turn to the clerk. I haven't seen it either. Expect it.
To read it in the record, but if she doesn't want to, we can have it translated, and I will distribute it to the committee as soon as we get it back.
Okay, then we'll give you can. We'll get Miss. It's not too long. Gather. We'll get Ms. Morton to read it into the record when we finish the rest of the witness list. If you're okay with that, Ms. Morton. Okay, thank you. Turning into the Northwest Territories Tourism, Ms. DeMarc, CEO.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for inviting the Northwest Territories Tourism to be part of this important conversation. I also want to express our gratitude for the critical support given by the federal government to help the tourism industry in the Northwest Territories survive what is an unprecedented health and economic storm. In 2019, before the pandemic, the NWT welcomed 120,000 visitors, and these visitors spent over $210 million directly in the tourism industry. Since March of 2020, the Northwest Territories border has been closed to leisure travel. The most recent research conducted in October of 2020 showed that 70% of tourism respondents lost annual revenue between 76 and 100%. This past year has been devastating to all tourism activities in the Northwest Territories. It has meant that the tourism operators who chose to remain open have had to repurpose their activities in creative ways as they attempt to generate some staycation revenues to keep their lights on. Tourism operators have been resilient. They have changed their business models, offering summer day camps for children and other venues and other ventures well outside of their normal business. While we are proud of the ingenuity of our tourism operators, we must state that the just over 15,000 households in the NWT will never make up for the revenue generated by our 120,000 plus visitors we normally see in a year. As you can imagine, tourism is extremely important to the Northwest Territories. Many tourism businesses have remained closed because it is not viable for them to open their businesses for the staycation market, while some have closed permanently. In the survey conducted in October 2020, only 21% of tourism businesses of businesses were temporarily or permanently closed. The first thing that I would ask of this committee is for the federal government to continue the current economic supports that are in place for the tourism industry for as long as it takes for travel to fully resume. Eventually, the NWT borders will reopen to leisure travel. And when this happens, tax incentives for the 2021-22 fiscal year to support local travel within Canada would be extremely helpful, as we would then be able to try to attract travelers from Canada, where normally the Northwest Territories relies heavily on international travel visitation, particularly in the winter months. Support for national airlines and local airlines as critical infrastructure to support travel will be important when travel resumes. Air Canada did cancel flights to Yellowknife earlier this year. Without the support for airlines, visitors won't be able to visit us if they can't get to the Northwest Territories. I would like to share that the goalposts for the easing of pandemic restrictions are continually changing and messages are confusing. This confusion causes a great deal of frustration in our industry. While we realize that the virus is changing and that this is the first ever pandemic in living memory, we would like to ask the federal government to take the lead on devising a scenario-based plan for the reopening of travel. The plan needs to be science-based and data-driven. Some of the variables that we think could be included in a scenario-based plan are setting a benchmark for the percentage of the population that needs to be vaccinated for travel to safely resume, hearing different numbers in the media daily, and also hearing the uncertainty about the usefulness of vaccines in allowing travel resumption is frustrating and disheartening. Outlining the role rapid testing and contact tracing can play in a safe reopening and setting consistent processes and standards is needed. Setting safety measures that need to be in place to support travel from border crossings to the tourism business level. The plan must include lead time for tourism industry businesses to prepare for reopening, which will likely take some months and include things such as hiring staff and reestablishing partnerships with airlines, hotels, and other partners. If the federal government wants to set a national standard, then individual provinces and territories could implement or revise these as appropriate. It would be very helpful, though, for the federal government to take the lead. I think it is important to note to the committee that COVID-19 has created a false economy. When the pandemic subsides, many jobs related to the pandemic will be lost. The jobs currently held by contact tracers, border security officers, isolation centers hosted by hotels, and other related jobs will disappear as the pandemic abates. In the NWT alone, we have a COVID secretariat that employs 187 people. The need to get the tourism sector up and running before or in tandem with the disappearance of these jobs is critical. This is another reason for having adequate lead time and a reopening plan. The federal government supports have been critical to our industry. Without these supports, we would have no industry left when the pandemic eases and tourism resumes. All funding sources have been accessed by our industry. By far, the most uptake has been the Northern Business Relief Fund and the Regional Relief Recovery Fund. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy and the Canada Emergency Response Benefit have also been very important. Tourism operators have also taken advantage of loan programs and the work sharing program. The most important thing I can say to you today is please extend these programs for as long as the pandemic impacts travel, and particularly leisure travel. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Ms. DeMarc. Before I turn to the last witness, just a heads up on the question list. First up will be Ms. Jansen, followed by Mr. McLeod, Mr. St. Marie, and Mr. Johns. Then turning to the Transparency International Canada, Mr. Cohen, Executive Director. The floor is yours, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand I'm in a low internet capacity area right now, so I might need to turn off my video so that the audio comes through adequately.
That's not a problem. Go ahead.
Advised by the clerk. Okay. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for inviting me to speak today. My name is James Cohen, and I am the Executive Director of Transparency International Canada. TI Canada is a registered charity and is the Canadian chapter of Transparency International, the world's leading anti-corruption movement. Canadians and the world have gone through a difficult, sad, and exhausting year owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are not done yet. In order to react to the pandemic, the federal government has had to spend unprecedented amounts of money in a short time. These funds were needed to procure essential medical supplies and equipment and to support Canadians experiencing economic distress. In this time of need to fight the pandemic and support Canadians, it is also critical that transparency and accountability are preserved and even strengthened. In this rapid movement of large amounts of money, There is not only the risk of misuse of public funds, but also the erosion of public trust. The public needs to be reassured with evidence that decisions are being taken with caution and integrity, and that they are executed with the same care. To this end, I would like to address 3 topics today: procurement, beneficial ownership, transparency, and economic recovery. First, transparency in public procurement is fundamental to, and that goods are procured at a reasonable price and in a fair manner. While the pandemic can allow some measures to be expedited in a procurement process, these principles must remain. While it took considerable public pressure for the government to release some pandemic-related data, such as Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy recipients and vaccine distribution timetables, there is procurement spending data available, namely on the Public Services and Procurement Canada website. This data is in the aggregate, though. Spending in different procurement categories and recipients of the contracts are available, but there is not a breakdown of how many contracts each party received. While the aggregate data is a start, TI Canada implores the government to go further to make successful contracts available. This is particularly important for the roughly $1 billion spent on Canada's vaccine contracts. The second point I would like to raise is on beneficial ownership transparency. That is the transparency of the actual physical person who benefits from a company. We remind the committee that Canada received negative reviews from the Financial Action Task Force 2015 mutual evaluation and is viewed by many experts and other bodies as a destination for money laundering. This makes it all the more important for the public to know who is actually benefiting from COVID procurement contracts. TI Canada was pleased to provide commentary to the government's public consultation on establishing a public registry of beneficial ownership last spring. A public registry would help Canada fight money laundering, or snow washing, as it's referred to. We have been waiting 1 year, though, for the results of those consultations. While we understand that the pandemic monopolized much of the government's attention, surely the consultation results should be released by now. Corporate beneficial ownership transparency is just as urgent for Canada during the pandemic as it was before, perhaps even more so. Beneficial ownership disclosure should be a requirement for all government contracts, licenses, and permits, so the government knows who they are doing business with. A public registry can also help Canadians protect themselves from fraud like fake job offers and fake medical supplies. This leads to my third point, economic recovery. Anti-corruption and anti-money laundering compliance, and indeed transparency and accountability measures, cannot be paused as a means of economic recovery. Here again, a public beneficial ownership registry will help, especially as designated non-financial businesses and professions like real estate agents and money service businesses will be required to conduct beneficial ownership due diligence as of June this year. In the mining sector, TI Canada has observed provincial governments citing the pandemic as a reason to fast-track public consultation processes for environmental assessments in an effort to speed up economic recovery. TI Canada recently assessed EA processes relating to mining in Ontario, BC, and Yukon, and our findings were that public consultations are already less than adequate. More transparency is needed, not less, especially with Canadian jurisdictions eyeing rare earths for green tech as an engine of economic recovery. The Government of Canada has had to react quickly with unprecedented resources and powers to meet the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. While perfection in the response may not be reasonable to expect, transparency in decision-making and adherence to accountability during and after the pandemic are, in our view, non-negotiable. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Cowan. Ms. Morton will go to you to read your statement into the record, if you could.
Great, let's try this again. Hi, my name is Victoria Morton, and I was an employee of We Charity from November 2018 to June 2020. I began as a strategist on the business development team and then joined the executive office in September 2019. As a strategist, I supported all revenue generating teams, for example, corporate partnerships, donor engagement, retail, executive office. While in the executive office, I provided direct support for Craig Kielburger for major events and select meetings. Managing his social media became part of my role shortly before the pandemic hit and became more of my responsibility afterwards, with a particular emphasis on building up his LinkedIn. In a previous committee meeting, Craig referred to his EA sending LinkedIn connection requests from his account. My title at the time was Manager of Executive Projects, but the tasks he referred to on March 15th, 2021 were under my portfolio. While I don't specifically remember Ben Chin, I did draft and send about 100 LinkedIn connection requests from Craig's account with custom messages using information I gathered from several internal and external sources. Please note that I was laid off in March 2020 at the same time most staff were, and then rehired about 2 weeks later on a 2-month contract. During those 2 weeks, I applied to grad school, so I requested the contract be made part-time. I was accepted to the grad program, so from May until my departure, I was attending school full-time and working at WE, still primarily supporting Craig part-time. As a 2-month contract came to an end, I was offered a renewal, but decided to respectfully decline to focus on my education. I returned my company laptop, which contained any contact list and confidential documents shortly after. Long before becoming a staff member, I was involved with WE as a youth from about grade 8 to mid-high school. I credit this organization with helping first ignite what has become a lifelong passion for civic engagement. I volunteered with many organizations unrelated to WE, including some that are partisan. I'd like to proactively disclose that I have been a volunteer for both the Ontario Liberal Party and the Liberal Party of Canada. Some of this overlapped with my time at WE, but was always undertaken as a private individual outside of work hours. We, nor anybody within the organization, has ever pressured me into any partisan activities. Almost done. I was happy to accept the committee's invitation to answer any questions that I can, but please note that I did not work on the Canada Student Service Grant Program, WE Day talent contracts, or WE Villages, nor did I have insight into the organization's finances. Additionally, I won't be providing the names of any other staff members. I'm grateful for Craig's previous refusal to give my name to the committee out of respect for my privacy. This allowed me to voluntarily identify myself using my personal Twitter account. I extend the same courtesy to all past and present staff members. I'm grateful for the role WE has played in my life as both a student and staff member. I continue to deeply respect the work they've done to advance service learning in classrooms and social entrepreneurship, which are 2 fields I remain particularly passionate about. Regardless of what the future of WE is, I hope that support for service learning and social entrepreneurship continue to grow within Canada and around the world.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Morton, and thank you all the other witnesses. So we'll start with 6-minute rounds with Ms. Jensen, followed by Mr. McLeod. Ms. Jensen.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Morton. I was wondering, with your job doing Craig's LinkedIn, what was your exact last day in June?
I realize that would be an important detail. I can get that to you before the end of the meeting. It's in my email history, and I'm looking that up right now.
Okay, and approximately, can you think of it? Was it mid-May and mid-June, end of June?
It would be end of the month. I think almost exactly, but let me confirm.
Okay, and so with that being said, you do admit then that you are the EA that Craig was suggesting sent out the message to Ben Chin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm wondering then, was it approved by Craig? Did he see the message and approve it?
It's hard to say what kind of approval it would refer to. Like I would give him sort of batches at a time, and he would.
So he would have seen it then? He would have seen it and said, yes, go ahead, you can send that.
Yeah, or skim it. That the
right.
level
So,
of approval.
He would have actually have read that message and said, yes, that's a good message. Ben Chin, the message saying, thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government. Warmly, Craig. He would have approved that then.
He would likely have had the opportunity to have.
But did he? I mean, that's my question. Did he approve that exact message?
I wouldn't be able to confirm.
So you don't necessarily get approval before sending something like that? It sounds like you do.
I give him any materials that I'm going to send out available for his review, but he doesn't really do word for word.
Okay, so how would you have thought to say, or how did you know that Ben Chin was helping in shaping that program? How would you have come up with that as a message?
Great question. So I don't want to speculate about exactly what it was for that one because I don't specifically remember the process.
Well, this one is very important.
Ms. Jensen, allow Ms. Morton time to answer.
Yeah, I know, but the time is so short, and we're trying to find out
I know,
why
but,
she would have said.
Everybody's
speak
got a
quickly.
problem on shortness
Okay.
of time. Ms. Martin, answer as thoroughly as you can.
I'll go as quickly as I can. Essentially, I would have the name, and I would look up both them in our database, like our Salesforce. I would look in his calendar. I would Google them, and then I would just sort of put the puzzle pieces together of what they were probably most likely.
So how would you know that he shaped the latest program? Why are you saying that?
I wouldn't have. I make the language as custom feeling as possible, putting together the pieces.
So how many people did you say thank you for shaping?
Ms. Jansen, allow Ms. Martin time to respond.
Okay, well, I understand there was 100 messages, and I'm wondering, of those messages, how many did you thank for helping you shape the latest program?
I have no idea.
So would that have been only for Mr. Chin, that message? It's just odd. How do you know to thank someone for shaping a program if you don't know who they are and you have no really idea what role they would have played? Why would you thank them?
Because I put together the puzzle pieces of what they're most likely involved in. They don't necessarily have to be directly like the contact or met Craig. I would just put the puzzle pieces together to the best of my ability.
So what you're saying is it was clear that he was involved in shaping a program, and so you wanted to thank him for that on behalf of Craig.
That's a leading question. So you're putting words into my mouth to build a narrative. And so I'm going to backtrack a little bit there.
You said you put the puzzle pieces together.
Ms. Jansen, Ms. Martin.
Put the puzzle pieces together as best I could to create custom communication efforts at a mass level while working part-time. Yes.
Right. So what puzzle pieces would you be putting together or to craft a message like that? What puzzle pieces would you have used in order to say that he shaped a program?
I would probably Google them, and then I would look into our internal databases and look up what's like the most recent project that we're probably working on with the most relevant group that they're part of.
So that's normal then, that you would work with someone like Ben Chin to shape a program?
Again, sort of taking my statement and then really pulling it into your narrative, but I will say that.
Well, it's just the puzzle pieces that you're putting together, and you're saying that that would have been the puzzle piece that you would have.
We will give Ms. Martin time to respond. Ms. Martin.
I apologize. Could you repeat the question?
Well, I'm just what puzzle pieces you would put together. Like, do you just assume that Ben Chin helped shape a program?
Yeah, so the puzzle pieces would be, okay, where does he work? What projects are people across the organization working on right now? Those are two puzzle pieces.
Right. So Ben would have been helping to shape a program together with you. You would have had there would have been a back and forth then.
Those don't equate to each other necessarily, no.
Okay, because what we're trying to understand is how would you know that Ben Chin was shaping a program?
Once again, I wouldn't directly have purview into or like visibility into who is and isn't shaping the program. I would do the best I can.
Ms. Jansen, go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would do the best I can to put together what information I had. Again, I don't have visibility into every single project, but I do have to create correspondence for a ton of different projects.
So he would be the only one then that you would have made the assumption that he had shaped the latest program. That it doesn't make sense to me that this is just a plain and simple, oh, thank you for shaping a program, if you have no idea actually that he was involved in shaping a program. The wording is odd. Why would you word it like that?
Because I do my best to customize every message.
And so you would have had an
Ms.
assumption.
Jansen, we're out of time. We'll go considerably over time. Mr. McLeod, followed by Mr. St. Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, I want to say welcome to Donnelly DeMarc from NWT Tourism. I want to ask her a few questions. But first of all, I also say congratulations on her new position with NWT Tourism. And I believe this is her first time in front of the Finance Committee. We've talked several times about tourism in Northwest Territories, and I I know that there's a lot of concern from the operators. It's had a great impact. The pandemic's had a great impact, as Donnelly presented. We have in the north a wide variety of tourism operators, from large operations, especially in Yellowknife and regional centers, to one-person operations in our smaller communities. And I want to ask Donnelly DeMarc if she's noticed that any of the government supports that may be working well for some of the operators, but maybe could be improved to help more of her members. That's my first question.
Thank you, Mr. McLeod. In my short 3 months with NWT Tourism, I've had an opportunity to speak with many of our members, from our largest operator here in Yellowknife to several of the medium and small operators. Most of them have very similar things to say about the programs that they've been able to access over the last year. While they're extremely appreciative for the programs, because without them they would not be in existence still today. Several of them have mentioned that if we're to continue down this path for the next 6 to 12 months, the ceilings on the programs could be lifted. More funding will be needed. A lot of them have done what they could do to patch everything together and to stay in business and to keep hanging on for the last 12 months. But you know, and a lot of that means dipping into their personal savings and selling things, but now they're a year into it and they don't have those personal savings left. They don't have those things to sell anymore. So some of the limits on the funds that they can access, if they're, you know, biggest thing is they hope that that funding will continue, but they need the limits to be increased as well. A lot of them also mentioned and have expressed that if there's meaningful work for some of these operators to do while we're waiting for visitors to come back to us, they would be more than happy to do that. And a perfect example of that is the military operations that we had in Yellowknife this past winter. They were able to use some of our operators, some of their facilities and some of their infrastructure. And if there's work like that, they'd be more than willing to do that. None of them really want to be sitting around. All of them want to be working. So if there's something that we can come up with to put them to work. The biggest thing, though, that when I'm speaking to the operators, and this is just in reference to, you know, the government maybe trying to come up with some guidelines, is the unknown and the uncertainty. You know, as of right now, they know that programs are ending. They don't know if they're going to be renewed. As of right now, they know that they can't have visitors to any of our locations. They don't know when that's going to change. The unknown is what's really what the operators are really having a hard time with. Thank you for that question.
Do I still have some time?
Yes, you do. You get 2 minutes.
Okay. Across the territories, all 3 territories, we're on pace to have administered vaccines to everyone who wants one in the coming weeks, at least by the end of this April month. And there's some good news of late in terms of getting more vaccines delivered to the rest of the country. It'll still be months before the provinces reach herd immunity. Do you have any suggestions on measures? And I think you just brought one up, but how can the industry be best supported during this period of varying provincial and territorial vaccine levels?
Yeah, really, it's the same answer to the first question. It's, you know, if we could find some meaningful work, if we could help, you know, set some guidelines as to what the goalposts are going forward, and continue the funding, the funding that's in place. But yeah, if there could be some other programs, other things that we could put our operators to work at, I know that they would all be on board for that. And if we could try to, you know, at least let our operators know once this and this happens, then this is going to happen, so that they have a little bit of a guideline as to how we're going to move forward from here. Thank you.
My final question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about how the NBT Tourism Association is preparing for a post-pandemic season in tourism. Many people are saying, you know, we're going to see this everything come back to normal, but that might take some while. So is your organization doing anything to try to plan around that? And how can the federal government help?
Yeah, I mean, you can continue funding for Destination Canada so that they can help us stay in market. Once the pandemic subsides and people start traveling, they're going to have choices all over the world. We need to make sure that Canada and the Northwest Territories is top of mind for our travelers. So funding Destination Canada and organizations like NWT Tourism and other destination marketing organizations across the country is critical and important. Yeah, I think how we're staying top of mind is we're trying to stay in touch with the countries that are our market, and trying to make sure that they're, you know, we're on the top of their list when they're ready to travel again.
Okay, thank you both for that. Turning then to Mr. St. Marie Gabriel, followed by Gord Johns.
Oui,
Gabriel.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to all of our witnesses. Thank you for your presentations. Mr. Paquet or Mr. Ryan? Well, Mr. Paquet, you're asking for predictability in the rent and wage subsidy programs. You ask that it be announced immediately, for example, in the upcoming budget, that these be extended until 2022. How would that change the lives of your member, the fact that you'd have some predictability, or whether or not this would be renewed until 2022 rather, whether it's every 2 months or not? How does that change anything for your members if there is predictability? Thank you, Mr. St. Marie. Let me begin with the answer, and then I'll turn over to my colleague Jean-Michel to complete. What we're asking for is predictability, and that is the Canada rent subsidy and the Canada emergency wage subsidy as well. And as my colleague already mentioned, is that there's a great deal of uncertainty regarding the virus, as well as the health measures that will have to be put in place. There are operational uncertainties. Company owners are used to being planning so that they can buy products, so that they can sell them, that they can hire the necessary staff to do this, to continue operating. But right now they cannot do this because the programs are not extended. So it's every few weeks or on a month-to-month basis. What we're asking for is that these programs be based on revenue laws compared, for example, revenue levels of 2019. There aren't many risks there. We want to see these programs to be extended until it's necessary. We're saying 2022 because the next budget will go until then. But until it's necessary to enable operators to maintain that relationship with their employees that they currently hold and that they can continue to hire as well. And I'll turn it over to Jean-Michel. Thank you very much. So as a company owner, we need predictability. This also enables us to plan our operating budgets for the next 3 to 6 months to know how many people we can keep. And this is very important regarding the future of organizations. If we cannot plan 6 months ahead of time to see where we might be at the end of the pandemic or post-pandemic, we know that the third wave is underway. But if we don't know whether or not we can call in assistance, we don't know if we can invest, how many people we can keep, there is no security at all in our organizations. And the people we have to let go in uncertain times are going to remain, as Eric mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, in other sectors. And what this does is that it exacerbates our labor shortage. So it's extremely important for us to have predictability. Thank you. So predictability, extension until 2022, and post-extension as long as the crisis continues for your members. But now you want to send a clear signal regarding predictability. Thank you. You mentioned the labor shortage. Many of your employees have left to work in other industries. Is there a means or a solution to bring them back so that we don't lose that expertise, that know-how? And regarding that, CERB, while it was being implemented, Was this a program that unfortunately has had a negative impact? Could it perhaps have contributed to this exacerbated labor shortage? Eric, if I may? Yes, go ahead. I'm also the president of a major ski operator in Quebec. And this winter, we struggled with the labor shortage. We had 30 to 50 people less than we would have required to operate normally. And in terms of the labor shortage, it means that people don't want to work in public spaces. In some cases, we need to sensitize people, educate them. But regarding CERB, we truly believe that CERB has, in fact, fostered people staying home rather than joining the labor market. So yes, it did contribute to the labor shortage. So it's a very important issue for us to cover this. As well, it's important to rebuild the tourism industry, hopefully this summer, and to prepare again for next winter. So we'll keep that in mind regarding the follow through to the CERB. Yes, I just wanted to point to the predictability. It's absolutely vital for us so that we maintain our relationships with our employees and that we can recruit as well people who are interested in working in the tourism industry. With what happened this year is that the registration for tourism training schools dropped by 40%. And that's deadly. It's absolutely critical for us to count on these people to ensure the future. Thanks to this predictability, we will be able to count on these programs and we'll be able to have sufficient employees. Yes, in fact, a few weeks ago, we went to ski, and in your center is the ski season now over. Are there any news compared to what you told us some months back at this committee? Yes, in fact, it's true. We met 2 weeks ago, I believe, 2 weeks ago. But the season is not quite over. Normally, we end at Easter or during the next week. That's the case for most of the ski centers in Quebec. We're facing the same issues that we've already repeated. And again, I concur with the comments made by Mrs. Donna Lee in response to Mr. McLeod's questions. What we need is, once again, to be able to count on the support and to be able to have predictability is a key word. That's very important to understand for the tourism industry. We're now into the third wave. We've fought. We already saw a shutdown last March. Some ski hills were able to open, then had to close again. But we're into this new wave, and we close and open ski hills and some major tourism attractions in Quebec and in Canada. These supports on a Canada, Quebec-wide level, these programs really help the tourism industry in Quebec and Canada. I was involved in a number of boards nationally and at the Quebec level as well. But to come back to Mr. McLeod's issue, if I may, the issue is also that we have to foster a rebuilding. We're working on marketing so that we can rebuild this industry in Quebec and in Canada. We're going to be facing some major international players. We also need levers so that we can quickly invest in tourism products nationally and in Quebec so that we'll be able to compete with the international offer. And by supporting investment in new products or development of new programs, we can also have jobs directly in the tourism industry, but as well in different sectors Canada-wide and in Quebec. So those were the points that I really wanted to raise. Thank you.
We will have to end it there. Thank you. Turning then to Mr. Johns, Gord, 6 minutes, be followed by Mr. Polyev.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for your hard work. Really appreciate seeing so many of you here trying to fight for workers and for those small businesses. It's something that New Democrats have been focused on since the beginning of the pandemic, and we're going to focus on today. First question, I'm actually going to go to Mr. Ladner and Ms. Benham. I really appreciate your testimony, and you talked about the inflexibility of the programs that the government's rolled out. There's been many people left out. We know startups still have been left out there. Some of them are in their third wave, and they haven't got any help whatsoever, and they're going out of business. Campgrounds, for example, can't get a lot of the programs because of the seasonality. The SARES program, the rent program was obviously flawed in design. We kicked and screamed to get them to fix it. Finally, they fixed it, but they still won't backdate it to April 1st. Those people are carrying debt and have been left out. Can you talk about what needs to happen in terms of fixing these broken, flawed programs and how this is impacting small businesses in every riding in this country?
Yes, so thank you for that question, and just a little background. I mean, our firm, we have offices, over 100 offices across Canada, from St. John's to Vancouver Island. So we've really seen the impact in the last year on small and medium-sized businesses right across the country. And quite frankly, I've been in this business for about 35 years, and the last time that there's anything been similar to this, and it was before I was really in practice, but it was in the early 80s when prime was 21%. So at the end of the day, this is a once in a generation, once in a century situation. And I really feel that the programs that have been put in place have just been a lifeline to our businesses. And we all know that businesses are the driver of the economy. We came here today to talk about what we saw as inflexibility in the programs, and really what we see there is it was something that was pulled together very quickly and with speed, and I think Parliament did a wonderful job, and I think the inflexibility is just the law of unintended consequences. So I think government officials are doing a wonderful job supporting small and medium-sized businesses. There's always more that you can do, and we would just really encourage
so I
all
appreciate,
the levels of
I
government
appreciate,
to help.
I do appreciate that. But our phones are ringing off the hook by people that can't get through these programs because of the inflexibility, because of the flawed design on some of the programs, and it's overwhelming, and people are losing their livelihood. So there's that. And as an accounting firm, you can see the CEBA loan. It's due next year, at the end of next year. Do you think that's reasonable? People are going to pay back this large amount of money, suffering the losses that they've incurred by the end of next year. I mean, these are small enterprises, most of them. Usually it takes 3 to 5 years to typically pay back a loan like this.
Yeah, there's no question. We're not here today to get into policies. We wanted to talk about CEWS and the CERS program, but I think the more flexibility and support that the government can give small and medium-sized businesses, I think that's just really important right now. And Tara, I don't know if there's anything you would like to add.
I think that's good, actually. And I'm going to go to Ms. DeMarsh. Ms. DeMarsh, in the Northwest Territories, like on Vancouver Island, I was talking to Don Travers and Caddy Martini, who own a whale watch company, and they're saying if the wage subsidy isn't extended throughout the summer or the rent program, it's going to impact and wipe out a lot of businesses that rely on international travel. We know international travel is not going to bounce back this summer. Can you talk about how this is going to impact visitors in the Northwest Territories, because you heavily rely on international travel and having that certainty over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, our border's closed, and we're looking at a border not even being open until potentially the fall time, if then. So without the supports, our businesses will not remain. They literally, without the supports, we won't have the businesses around once the travel comes back around. So regardless of what's going on in the rest of the country, we know for sure we're not going to be having visitors here till at least the fall time. So we've got another season. This is the second season for some of our operators. Some of them that operate summer and winter, this is their third season with no income. So without those supports in place, they will close their doors.
Last question.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. So the last question then I'll go to is around, you talked about Destination Canada, and I think about how important they are, and also ITAC, Indigenous Tourism Association Canada, who just learned that they're getting an 83% cut on their core funding. They're told to wait to look to budget. Well, I got a note from Keith Henry, and he's not only worried about when the budget's going to be released, but they're trying to hold the industry together and with duct tape at this point, and people are leaving because there's no certainty in their jobs at that organization. Can you talk about how important that organization is, and also if you think it would be irresponsible to have an election in the middle of all of this uncertainty.
Thank you, Mr. Johns, for bringing up ITAC, because I was kicking myself for not mentioning them earlier. They're vital to our industry, and again, they're in the same situation. Without having the certainty of knowing what's going on, people are looking elsewhere. Employees are leaving. The whole structure of the organization crumbles without knowing what the certainty is. So it's, again, the supports are and the know, and to know what's actually happening and what's going to be happening down the road it's vital and critical to our sector. And I can't speak to an election call. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Turn to 5-minute rounds. Mr. Polyev, followed by Ms. Zerowitz. Mr. Polyev.
Ms. Morton, you said that you always sent correspondence to Mr. Kielburger for his review before sending it out. So when you sent the message, "Hello, Ben, thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government, warmly, Craig," to Mr. Kielburger, did he object to that wording going to Mr. Chin?
As I mentioned in my statement that I read, I don't recall the details or specifics of sending this message.
So you don't remember sending the message?
There was 100 plus of them. So no, I don't remember the specific one.
You just don't remember sending it?
Correct.
Okay. And did you send messages to any other members of the government, staff, bureaucrats, politicians among those 100?
I can't recall like the names that were specifically on that list, but I do remember that there were other government people within the 100. I don't know if they were staffers or not.
And did you thank any of them for shaping the program?
That's where we get into my memory from a year ago. We're relying on my memory here. So.
Right. And but Craig did, when he looked at the message that you proposed to send to Mr. Chin, he didn't have any objections? You don't remember any objections on his part?
I don't recall any objections on his part. I also said that I don't know if he always reviewed it.
So you would send things with his name on them without him even knowing what the words were?
That has happened on occasion, yes.
Okay. And how did you know that Ben Chin helped shape the Canada Student Service Grant?
I wouldn't have had visibility into that.
But how did you know?
Well, similar to the conversation we were having with Jensen, Ms. Jensen, I would put together the best information that I could with the information I had available, making assumptions as I go.
You're right.
But again, I didn't have visibility into that sort of thing.
But
Craig would think.
Did you write the words, "Hello, Ben, thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government"? Did you write those words?
Once again, asking me the same question in a different way doesn't really refresh the memory at all.
But okay, but Craig is claiming that you did send it, and now you're saying you can't remember if you sent it.
Because then I wouldn't be relying on my explicit memory of exactly where I was, when I was, what my thought process was in sending that message. And
but you did
sending
send the
100
message
a year ago.
Sorry, I'm just not clear. You did send it, or you don't know if you sent it? Where are we at?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, so Craig says you sent it. You now say you don't remember. Okay, that's interesting. You said that you relied on the database, email correspondence and calendars to piece together the puzzles that helped you write this message that you now say you can't remember writing. Was Mr. Chin in the We Charity database?
I don't recall what the process was for this specific one.
But was he in Mr. Kielburger's calendar?
No. Well, okay, so I can't say yes or no because I can't remember his calendar from a year ago. If he was in the calendar, chances are I would have written something like, "Hi, Ben, thanks. Fantastic, look forward to getting to work. Warmly,
okay,
Craig."
That's interesting. So that's an interesting call. We didn't know that call had happened.
That wasn't a call. That was an example.
Okay, so it wasn't a call. It was just an example of a call that didn't happen. Okay.
I am going to interrupt here, Pierre, for a minute because I want it to be clear that Ms. Morton said that was an example. She is not saying that call was made if Mr. Chin was in the database. Just to be clear.
All right. Well,
I'll not take the time from you. The floor is yours.
It is just a little bit strange that we're hearing that the email Miss Morton said that she wrote and now says she doesn't know she wrote, said that if she had wrote it, it might have been the result of a call that might have happened, but in this case didn't.
Last question.
Have you spoken with any member of the We Charity since the Kielburgers last testified at the Ethics Committee in March?
This March, yes.
Have you been getting assistance with your testimony from them or any of their representatives?
On the day, no, the day after his testimony, he called me to check in. He broadly sort of offered me support, but
Right.
I wanted to maintain my independence, and these words are all my own.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. We will go to Ms. Zerowitz, who will be followed by Mr. St. Marie. Julie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank everyone for their presentations. I actually want to go to three of our witnesses, but I'm going to start off just very quickly, Ms. Morton, just with you. I just want for the record, one, thanks so much for reading out your testimony. It was very helpful. It was also very consistent with what Mr. Kielburger had indicated when he came in. Mr. Craig Kielburger mentioned when he came before us, where he said, sure, I sent 100 messages because I only had 8 people on LinkedIn before that. That day, 100 messages went out. My executive assistant sent them to people to join on LinkedIn, and he was one of them. And you had indicated that part of your responsibility in his office was particularly in building up LinkedIn. So I appreciate that. And I'll just go very quickly to sort of maybe one more small thing. In my office, I've my staff that do my social media. They're very helpful. They often will have a running list of all the social media that they're working on. They'll send it to me for any comments. Sometimes I comment on some stuff. Sometimes I change things and I send it back to them. Some things I comment, some things I don't. Is that more or less how you worked? You sort of gave a whole bunch of messages in, and then it was some were competent or not, but you weren't quite sure what, and that sort of came back to you?
Yes, that I would say that's a fair characterization. I would hand him like sort of bulk social media posts, bulk potential messages, pitch decks, you name it, and he would kind of spot check, I imagine.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. And then just my last question to you, and I don't expect this to be a yes, so I don't want you to think this is a trick question. Our topic today is COVID-19 spending and programs. And I know that you had indicated very clearly you had zero involvement in the Canada Student Grant Program. Do you have any contribution to the COVID-19 spending and program testimony that we have today?
That's a great question. I was invited. I have nothing to hide, so I came. It's not really my decision to make.
Okay, thank you so much. My next question is actually for Grant Thornton, Mr. Ladner, and Ms. Benham. If I understood correctly, I believe that you indicated that a number of companies that you serve have realized late in the day that they could have qualified for the wage subsidy program. But by the time they actually figured out they could qualify, the deadline to actually apply was had passed. Do I understand that correctly? Could you just say yes or no very quickly?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So if someone said the following, well, if a company didn't know that they qualified and they still were able to keep their staff and continue to run their business as best as they could, maybe they didn't need the wage subsidy. How would you respond to someone who might say that?
Ms. Benham or Mr. Ladner?
You know, I guess that's a great question, and I think the fact of the matter is the program is there to support private business and maintaining the employment of their people. So at the end of the day, as it's been said earlier, no one knows how long this is going to go on, and we just wouldn't want to see that business because they weren't aware of the deadlines or weren't aware of the filing to be put in a worse position than truly they should be, because in that example, they actually have maintained their employment, and that is key during this period of time.
Thank you. And then I have a question for Mr. Paquette and Mr. Ryan. We have an 8.2% unemployment rate in Canada and about 600,000 Canadians that are still looking for jobs. How would you explain sort of the disconnect between a lot of people looking for jobs and there being labor shortages within the tourism and hospitality industry? How would you explain that?
Mr. Paquette.
Je peux me permettre, Eric?
Mr. Ryan, go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 points that we refer to. First, in the tourism industry, there is a fear. We have many positions that are about public service, customer service, for example, in ski hills, those who run the ski lifts, etc. We have people who normally work with the public. They are scared of catching COVID. In our case, to take the example of Mount Sutton, we lost employees during the winter time. During the second lockdown and the second wave in Quebec, we lost many employees, and it was very difficult for us to recruit employees under the CERB, because of CERB, because it does not encourage people to go back into the job market. So we already had some labor shortages during the pandemic, but this became increased, and it was thanks to these 2 factors that exacerbated our crisis.
Thank you very much. Do I have time for one more question?
No, you're done. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. St. Marie will try and go with just a couple of minutes if we could, and the same for Mr. Johns, so we can get 2 more questioners in. Mr. St. Marie.
Oui, merci.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Paquet, Mr. Ryan, and Ms. Lee DeMarc. I'm not certain if you were able to understand Mr. Ladner's presentation and Ms. Benhouse from Grant Thornton presentation. In their opening statement, they said that there are many cases where companies would like to apply for the wage subsidy or the rent subsidy, but they do this too late, and then the program is closed, and the program is simply too rigid. It would be useful to render this program more flexible so that we're able to better support companies. Is this the kind of situation that your own members have been able to share with you? Perhaps we could begin with Mr. Paquet, Mr. Ryan, and then Ms. Lee DeMarc. Well, Jean-Michel, what we're hearing, and you'll continue on this, but what we hear regarding the wage subsidy program, as well as the rent subsidy programs, is that there's a certain amount of acceptability. And it's very simple to apply. But for all of the programs that involve loans, all kinds of programs, there, in fact, are certain issues with respect to eligibility for the program, more specifically involving the risk criteria that the financial institutions have been imposing. So that's what we're hearing from the companies. Jean-Michel, over to you. Yes, it's true. Those companies that are highly indebted will, as much as possible, not to incur further debts. A number of companies will prefer to stay shut longer rather than taking the risk of incurring more debt. We've talked a great deal about predictability and uncertainty in today's meeting. That is why companies, especially those smaller ones who don't have as much cash flow, will be more fragile, more vulnerable, and they might prefer to keep their doors shut longer or to perhaps declare bankruptcy because they don't have the luxury of doing it elsewhere, whereas some of these programs are difficult to access at this time, and a number of sectors have recovered. It's not as important, but for the tourism industry, I think it would be good to see some better, more flexible arrangement with respect to these programs. Thank you. And Ms. Lee DeMarc, do you have anything to respond to that?
Just that I have heard some anecdotal cases and incidences where there's been errors made or mistakes made, and it's very difficult to rectify or fix those problems. Yeah, and again, I just want to speak to the certainty of, knowing whether or not we have the programs available ahead of time is critical and so important for the industry.
Okay, thank you all. Just before I go to you, Mr. Johns, to Mr. Ladner or Ms. Benham, I think as you explained to me, if you're filing income taxes or other financial issues with the federal government, there is always the ability to do a late filing, sometimes with a penalty or whatever. But on this issue with the queues, that's it. There's no flexibility whatsoever. Is this an anomaly that's just with these emergency programs for the pandemic, or what? Could you expand on that a little?
And so Tara, can you take that question?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So I would say that for most filings and elections within the Income Tax Act, yeah, there is always an ability to amend or file late. There usually is a penalty that is attached to it. There are a few things within the Income Tax Act where there is a hard deadline. One of them, for instance, is the SR&ED filing, Scientific Research and Experimental Development. The difference between that program and the Qs and the SIRS having a hard deadline is that the old legislation, everybody knows how to deal with it. It's year after year, whereas this is new legislation, complex legislation, and the businesses are really looking at surviving versus focusing on that right now. So I would say that there is a difference.
Okay, thank you very much, Gord Johns. Just a couple of minutes, Gord.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, Mr. Paquette, what happens if the wage subsidy and the rent program aren't extended through the summer? Can you talk about the impact that would have on workers and those businesses?
Unfortunately, my guess is that many businesses will close. It's been a big help to go through the pandemic in the last year. For example, the biggest cruises on the St. Lawrence, the company that has the most cruises on the St. Lawrence, they had 750 people, and now they have only 250, and they don't know if they're going to have a season. 65% of their revenue is from the international tourists, and the borders are closed. So he knows in 2021 that he won't get even half of what he used to get in revenue. So if he doesn't get the wage subsidy, if he doesn't get the subvention aux frais fixes, sorry about that, I don't know by heart the English name, it will be tough. And we're talking here about companies that hire hundreds of people that are very structuring for the economy, not only for tourism, but for the economy. Mm-hmm. And these big companies in tourism are very much affected. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. My last question is around startups. I mean, we know it takes years for people to build a business and get it ready to go to market, and they can't collect the wage subsidy, they can't get the loan program, they can't get the rent assistance program. They've been completely excluded, abandoned basically by the government, and still there's common sense ideas that could be brought forward so they could get some supports. Are you seeing and hearing from startups, and are you seeing many of them failing right now because the multiple lockdowns and medical health measures that have been put in place? And how that's impacting them.
Are you talking specifically for tourism?
Yeah. I mean, startups and tourism, absolutely.
Well, we speak mostly. We don't see a lot of startups right now. Let's just say that in tourism, the ones that we saw before the pandemic are having a hard time, definitely. But we're mostly focused on the businesses that are there right now and that are struggling.
Si je peux me permettre.
Oui, vas-y.
Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
Si je peux me permettre, Mr. John.
Mr. Johns, if I may, the fact that the well-established companies are having trouble in surviving, given the pandemic, I think it's possible to imagine that startups will have even more difficulty because they can't count on a credit history or a financial performance record. Just a reminder, is that we are now in the third wave. And I saw that there will be lockdown once again in Ontario for a month. In Quebec, we're locking down again throughout the province shortly. And as I mentioned this earlier, we start, we close, we open. Some companies are able to overcome this. Others are at the very limit of shutting their doors for good. And with a third wave, if programs are not put in place and if there isn't sufficient flexibility, no doubt we're going to see quite a wave of shutdowns, not only in Quebec, but throughout Canada, because tourism represents 1 job out of 10. And it'll be difficult for some to keep their doors open.
Because Mr. Falk and Mr. Fragiskatis will get to split about 7 minutes. Mr. Falk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be turning my time over to Mr. Polyev.
Okay, you got 3 minutes there, Pierre.
Ms. Morton, have you been in contact with We Charity lawyers or lawyers paid by We Charity since Mr. Kielburger's testimony in March?
The first part of your question, I couldn't hear you, Falk. Can you repeat?
Have you been in contact with lawyers paid by the We Charity since Mr. Kielburger's testimony in March?
I had about a 5-minute call with one of them.
Okay, and have they offered to provide you with legal assistance over at the We Charity for your testimony?
They generically offered me support, to which I didn't accept. I wanted my autonomy, and they respected that.
So, and you just spoke to the one of their lawyers once since that testimony?
I've had a couple conversations with various people within the organization. I don't know their connection to We or to anybody else.
Right. Sorry, within which organization then?
That information I'm not familiar with.
Sorry, I'm a little. You said you were in contact with several people within that organization. I asked which organization, and now you're saying you're not familiar with which organization you were referring to. Can you clarify which organization?
I'm not sure what connection everybody has to the organization at this point. I don't know who's a lawyer of We, who's a lawyer of Craig, who's a lawyer of.
Okay,
this is a web that I'm not familiar with.
So this web that you've been in contact with from We, are they're lawyers for Craig or Mark or We? You don't know. You just don't know which part of the web they work for.
I wouldn't have visibility to that.
Okay, but it is a web. So when you say web, you mean people have called you from We since he testified?
Yeah, there's been the lawyer that I had the conversation with.
And have they been? Have you been offered any other employment or contractual opportunities at We since you left?
Last question, Pierre.
I have not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do I have one last question?
Very quick one.
Are you aware of any contact between Mr. Kielburger and Margaret Trudeau, Sophie Trudeau, Katie Telford, Rick Thies, or Bill Morneau between the months March and end of June 2020?
I have no visibility into that.
Okay, thank you both. Mr. Fragiskatis, you'll have to wrap it up.
Thank
3
you,
minutes.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witnesses. This question goes to Ms. DeMarc and Mr. Paquette. It relates to tourism, obviously. The Australian government recently put in place a measure, it's a spending measure, and it's intended to help areas of Australia that rely on tourism, around a dozen areas in the country. And the way that they're doing it, it's $1 billion earmarked specifically to help reduce, in half, in fact, travel fares. So 800,000 Australians would have the ability to travel at half the price because of this subsidy. Now, I wonder how that might apply to Canada. Obviously, we don't want to encourage travel, but when it is safe to do so, do you think this is something that, and when I say it's safe, when it's safe to do so, when the country has, when Canadians have received vaccine and we see infection rates decline very dramatically, do you think as a way to help areas of the country that rely on the Canadian government should look at pursuing? And whoever, Ms. DeMarc, we can begin with you if you wish, and then maybe wrap it up with Mr. Paquette.
I mean, that would be an absolutely phenomenal initiative if the federal government would take something like that on, especially if we were open to Canadian travel before international travel, so that we could start getting some of our Canadians moving around our country while we're waiting for international travel to come back to Canada again. It would be absolutely welcomed and would be a great program for tourism in our country.
And it is focused in Australia specifically on Australian citizens. I think it could be something interesting here to focus on Canadian citizens, but would love to hear your view, Mr. Paquette.
Well, we think it's a great idea. We actually recommended, one of our recommendations is a document we submitted in the pre-consulting for the federal budget. One of our recommendations is we should incent Canadians to travel across the country, and it should focus primarily, first of all, on transport, to give discounts on transport to help and Canadians to travel, and also even give free tickets to children under 12. In sort, you can incent families to travel and discover the country.
Well, one step at a time, but
I
take your point.
Yeah, you know what I mean by that. So, and we think a program that's instant, that you see tangible benefits right away when you want to make a reservation, is something that could work well, and that could work as well with different local programs in the country. It could be complementary with other local programs, and without the companies or tourism companies, losing, cutting in their margins. So we think it would be a great program.
Merci.
Okay, thank you all. I certainly want to thank all the witnesses for their coming forward today. Your experience and your advice is valuable to us, and through us, hopefully, to the government of Canada as we move forward. The pandemic programs have rolled out quickly, and the government has showed a willingness to change them. So thank you all for your advice and your presentation and answering our questions. With that, we will suspend for about 3 minutes and start with our next panel. So meeting is suspended. And for the information of the witnesses, we are on meeting number 32, panel 2, meeting number 32 of the House Common Standing Committee on Finance. And as you well know, you're here. We invited you as witnesses on the study of all aspects of COVID-19 spending and programs, and we look forward to your testimony. So we'll start with the Association of Canadian Independent Travel Advisors. I'm not sure who the witness is. I don't have you on my list. Is it Ms. Wilson?
Judith Coates.
Okay, Judith Coates. Go ahead. Yes, we've met before.
We have.
A number of us on Zoom. Go ahead, Judith. Welcome.
Nice to see you again, Honorable Chair, and also committee members. Thank you so much for inviting us to present today. We've provided a PDF of our presentation deck if you'd like to follow along with that. There are over 24,000 travel advisors in Canada, and half of us are independent travel advisors. And what that means is that we are small business owners, we're self-employed, and the majority of us are sole proprietors. The two key pieces of information that we want to give you at this point are that 100% of our revenue comes from commissions that we earn from our travel suppliers, and also 85% of all travel advisors are female. And we know that women have been the hardest hit in this pandemic, and our industry is no exception. We've been told that we're all in the same boat, but we don't believe that's true. We believe we're all in the same storm, but we're in many different boats. And we believe our boat is sinking much more rapidly than a lot of other boats out there. And part of that is because of our delayed revenue stream. We're not like an industry that sells a product and gets paid a commission check the following month. In our line of work, it takes between 5 and 11 months from when a customer makes a booking of a trip until we actually get paid for that work that we've done on that booking. So if we want to assume that travel restrictions would be lifted by the end of June, and if a client came and made a booking on July 1st, we will not receive any revenue for that booking and for the work that we've done until as early as mid-November of this year, or more realistically, as late as June of 2022. So our first reality is that we've been without revenue for 1 year, and we know it's going to take 5 to 11 months from the resumption of travel before we start to see any revenue from future bookings. So we are asking the government for sector-specific aid because we know that the CRB is not meant to be a long-term Band-Aid solution. There are other countries that are already on their second round of sector-specific aid for their travel advisors, and we believe Canada needs to follow suit. And here's another reality. Even though that we've been hindered from earning any revenue, we are business owners, and we've been continuing to operate our businesses, and we are as busy as ever because we are supporting our clients. When they needed to be repatriated to Canada, we were there to do that for them. When they needed assistance with their cancellations, we were there to help them. And as they've been issued their future travel vouchers, we've been processing those for them, and we are continually reworking those files. And as they've needed assistance with insurance claims, we've been busy providing that assistance. So although we have been quite active in our businesses, the reality is we are slipping through the cracks because other than the CRB, only a very small percentage of independent travel advisors have been able to receive any funding from the federal government. The CRB was designed to put food on our table and help us pay the rent, not pay our business expenses. There's another piece to our puzzle, and that is that we know that the airlines need financial assistance. They are the backbone of our travel economy, and we need them to be financially viable. We also support the option of consumer refunds. However, in November, when the former transport minister announced that airlines would not receive any bailouts unless consumers were given refunds, there was a huge trickle-down effect. WestJet and WestJet Vacations, then Transat and Transat Holidays, issued notices to us saying, your clients will not receive a refund until you pay back the commissions that you earned on those bookings. In some cases, those commissions were earned by us in 2019. They've already been taxed And there's no way that we can pay them back, nor do we believe that we should be paying back those commissions because they were revenue earned for services that we provided to those large corporations. So we need assurances from the government that bailouts will only be given on the condition that travel advisors' commissions are protected. We're asking for the government to set up a fund in the amount of $200 million to facilitate this. Until travel restrictions are lifted, confidence will remain low. And we believe that if the government is going to continue to impose these restrictions, aid must be given immediately to our sector. We're asking for your support for commission protection, first of all, to ensure that bailouts will only be given on the condition that our commissions are protected. Commission clawbacks are forcing many travel advisors into bankruptcy. The second thing that we're asking for is sector-specific aid for independent travel advisors to help keep our businesses afloat. Please ensure that our businesses and that we won't continue to fall through the cracks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coates, and with you as to support you and back up in terms of questions is Brenda Slater, also a co-founder. I think people should understand this organization didn't exist not that long ago, and Nancy Wilson, travel advisor. Turning then to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Mr. Siddall, President and CEO. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation to update the committee on our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Je suis particulièrement heureux que...
I'm extremely pleased to say that the fact that I'm here today is my very last act as a federal civil servant. The health of our democracy depends on the rule of law of our elected members, and it is our duty to remain loyal to all Canadians.
Delivered to Oliver North after Mr. North had professed his patriotism and claimed a more intricate and nuanced ability to determine that country's national security as an excuse for lying to the U.S. Congress. Senator Warren Rudman, a conservative Republican from New Hampshire, invoked the opening phrase of the U.S. Constitution, "We the people," to remind him of his error and said, "Congress represents the people, and the American people have the right to be wrong." En fait, le respect constant de nos processus de...
The compliance with our democratic processes, and more specifically with our parliamentary rules, has assured the Dominion of Canada. Regarding the matter before us today, I appeared for the last time before the committee 10 months ago, and that was quite early days in the pandemic, to explain how we as an organization have responded quickly to come to the assistance of Canadians and to stabilize their financial position and to ensure the economic well-being of households and small companies.
Itself in its rapid response, launching multiple initiatives to support Canadians. In addition to hundreds of interventions on behalf of our individual housing provider clients, the principal policy measures we took were as follows. We relaunched the Insured Mortgage Purchase Program with $150 billion of strength in coordination with the Bank of Canada's several liquidity measures, together to help ensure that banks would have access to reliable funding and keep housing markets functioning. However, we also removed a prior implicit pricing discount in the prior IMPP from the global financial crisis, eliminating any suggestion that CMHC or the Government of Canada was subsidizing lending. It is a tenet of emergency support measures that they require more expensive emergency pricing. We also coordinated with lenders and private mortgage insurers to allow Canadian homeowners impacted by the pandemic to defer mortgage payments for up to 6 months, which nearly 1/5 of mortgage holders made use of. The same relief was made available to our multi-unit clients to facilitate rent relief for their lower income tenants. Additionally, speaking of rent relief, we were asked to administer the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance for small businesses, lowering rent by at least 75% for more than 140,000 small businesses experiencing financial hardship due to the pandemic. That program has been superseded, as you know, by the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy, now administered by the Canada Revenue Agency. At my last appearance, I also repeated our economist's warning about a potential fall in house prices. Needless to say, we got that wrong. You may recall, however, that those were more uncertain times, and people may not appreciate the ugly scenarios we were considering in our responsibilities as managers of systemic risk. The 18% decline level, the outside number that we used, was clearly identified as a worst case scenario that we then described as very unlikely. However, our 9% decline warning did not take into account 4 significant factors. First, compositional or mix changes that inflate apparent price appreciation when a larger quantity of higher priced homes are traded in one period versus another. Second, the full impact of low interest rates and other monetary policy changes. Third, the scope and scale of government support programs and the extent to which these have delayed inevitable economic adjustments, including resulting potential unemployment. And finally, fourth, the behavioral and psychological effects of the foregoing on both where people would choose to live and just how much froth this would all create in housing markets. I will say that I'm very concerned about the state of current housing markets in Canada and the resulting potential impacts on our future economic growth, on the environment of more people driving cars to get home, and on increasing levels of inequality. Homeowners have had windfall gains on housing, while renters have fallen farther behind during a pandemic that has already hit them harder. So-called extrapolative expectations, what my son would call FOMO, or fear of missing out, are evident and signal a market that's become detached from economic fundamentals. Depuis mon apparition au printemps,
Since my appearance last spring, we have continued to focus our efforts on relief for Canadians in order to overcome this crisis and to position the economy for a quick and strong rebound. In July, we reviewed our policies for mortgage loans that are insured in order to safeguard those who are buying houses in the future, to minimize risk and to ensure the stability of the housing markets. Through this, we have focused on the financial health of our system and made this a priority rather than our commercial interests.
Safe. Homeowners are not. We therefore continue to defend the stress test and 25-year amortization limits, measures that have protected homebuyers and our economy and restrained house price gains. Prices would have been even higher without these measures. Our version of taking away the punch bowl so the party doesn't get too loud, as I once described it to this committee. Demand measures aside, we've also continued to deliver a range of housing programs under the National Housing Strategy to increase housing supply, making housing more affordable and ensuring that Canadians continue to have the sanctuary of a home when it is needed most. In October, we launched the Rapid Housing Initiative, a $1 billion program to address urgent housing needs of Canadians made vulnerable, especially those experiencing homelessness in the context of COVID-19. Our initial estimate was that the $1 billion of RHI funding would support the construction of up to 3,000 new affordable homes. As Minister Hussen recently announced, we surpassed this goal. The program will support the construction of 4,777 homes, of which over 1,800 are for Indigenous people. L'annonce économique d'automne du gouvernement.
In the fall economic statement, the federal government has also given a new push to the CMHC. The building of rental housing units will be increased by $2 billion in order to achieve a $25.75 billion. That is 10 times as much more than the initial size of the program as of 2021. This new loan, rendered possible by the investment program, will foster the building of 28,500 rental housing units over a 7-year period. The pandemic of the COVID-19 have made it apparent that it is all the more important to have a home and to strengthen our determination, CMHC, to achieve our aspirations. By 2030, we want to ensure that everybody in Canada can have a place that they can call home and one that meets their needs.
To thank the 2,200 people of our company who have transformed it into a housing policy and program implementation machine in a place that does things right, even including a massive IT transformation. The CMHC of today is client-centric, purpose-driven, innovative, inclusive, and a resilient place in whom Canadians can have confidence. It has been a privilege and the single greatest chapter in my career to have served our country alongside them. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here on my last day as CEO of CMHC, and I look forward to answering all your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siddell. Just a message for Dan Clement, who's with United Way. Dan, I don't know if there's problems with your mics or not, but a translator's asked if you could just send your opening remarks through to the clerk. It would assist them with translation, I gather, okay? Turning then to the Fédération Nationale de Communication de la Culture, Ms. Saint-Onge, President, and Julian Laflamme, Coordinator. Go ahead, Ms. Saint-Onge.
Bonjour, Monsieur.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee. First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to appear before this committee on COVID emergency measures. The Federation, the National Federation of Communication and Culture, represents about 6,000 members divided into about 80 unions. We also work in close collaboration with cultural unions, including the Union of Artists, as well as the GMMQ, as well as directors in Quebec. To name only a few, organizations bring together about more than 25,000 workers in the media, arts, and culture. Our organization represents both salaried employees as well as self-employed workers. 2 weeks ago, we, with our partners, published an unprecedented and very disturbing report on the position of self-employed workers and employees in the cultural universe. That is the insecurity that has plagued artists, creators and artists for many decades now. This combined with the complex universe of pandemic have pushed our members into a situation of psychological and financial distress. Of course, performance arts were especially impacted by the public health measures and shutdowns, but the entire sector has been shook up. And today, the halls have been open once again, but apparently we're entering a third wave. The average annual wage for cultural workers generally does not exceed the threshold for low income for a single individual in Quebec. In 2017, this threshold was at $24,220. In 2019, none of the cultural activity sectors would reach this amount, not even in film or video. This financial instability and the weak social safety net that's accessible to these workers makes them very vulnerable during these crises. And that is something that most of them experienced. When they were surveyed between December and January, 64% of our members indicated that they had symptoms of very strong psychological distress. This can no longer last. So in our survey, we asked our members which, according to them, would likely be their net income from their artistic practices. For 63% of the 1,500 respondents, this would be less than $10,000, whereas for 15% of respondents, they would earn even less than $19,000. More than 40% of our members, in fact, are considering leaving the cultural sector altogether. Based on these data, we can list a few facts. First of all, 67% of our members who are self-employed have received the CERB. Without this, clearly, several would have had no money to pay for their rent or to eat. This measure was the best measure adapted to directly help cultural workers, and only 34% of them registered for the CRB, the Canada Recovery Benefit. A number of reasons seem to explain this dramatic drop, including the fact that a number of criteria, such as looking for works, whereas there were no activities taking place culturally, is one of them. In fact, they were afraid of having to pay back a great deal of money, whereas a few of them had very few savings, and that is why they did not want to take the risk. However, the CRB should be extended as long as this crisis continues, and ideally, as long as the administrative constraints would be reduced to a minimum level to make access easier. And finally, other than the CERB and to a lesser extent the CRB, few programs were directly accessible to artists, to creators, and artisans. We have to build a social safety net for self-employed so that they can continue in their professions. We need to introduce a salary replacement mechanism without which it will be difficult to make up for the precarious situation that our artists live in. Without them, after all, there would not be any culture. So improving the social economic lives of cultural workers must be a priority of all of the actions that are being considered by government. With respect to specific cultural assistance programs, whether this be regarding the Film Board, Telefilm, or the Canada Arts Council, generally these funds have been neglected for tens of years, for decades now. And as a result, the entire sector already found itself in a difficult financial position, and even more so when it comes to French language content. Yes, certainly, we need sums to support the sector, but these sectors will require a great deal more assistance. I'd like to take a few moments now to speak about the media sector. We reiterate the importance that the government do advertising first and foremost in our Canadian media, that whether this be in our newspapers or magazines, on TV, in the radio, or in digital media. This sector has already been greatly shaken at by fiscal, legislative, regulatory inequalities because of the web giants. The government must do its best to foster professional journalistic information, specifically in a pandemic, whereas our original cultural production and whereas the Canadian population spends more time than ever in front of screens. It is all the more important. The wage subsidy has already also enabled a number of media outlets to maintain their employees at work, but it must be extended. I would like to thank you very much, and Julia and I will be very pleased to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. St. Onge. Just to give members a heads up on the speaking order on questions, we'll start with Mr. Poilievre, and then it'll be Ms. Petrakis, Mr. St. Marie, and Mr. Johns. And for Ed Fast, Ed, my system is a little unstable here, so you may lose me, so you may have to take over as chair. It's went down, bringing her down a couple of times, so just keep that in mind. From the United Way,
Mr. Chair,
I'll be ready.
I think it's Pat.
Okay, it's Pat that's going to take over. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Pat. United Way Centre Aid Canada, Mr. Clement, President and CEO.
Thanks, and thanks for having me. Let me start by recognizing and thanking the federal government, all of you as MPs, and Canada's federal civil servants for the critical work that you've been doing through this pandemic. Your work has been extraordinary, important, and needed, and we're not done, obviously. United Way Centre Canada is Canada's largest funder of vital community services. We're focused on eliminating poverty and ensuring vulnerable Canadians have the support they need to build sustainable livelihoods. We serve all regions of Canada. Every year, United Way Centre invests over $500 million to support 3,500 different community organizations and over 5,000 programs and services. And we've stepped up over the course of the pandemic. We're working with municipalities, public health organizations, foundations, frontline agencies to coordinate local responses. Through our fundraising, we've also been able to mobilize an additional $40 million in support for community responses. And I would note that with the support of the federal government, we've been able to rapidly expand our 211 navigation service to all regions of Canada to help ensure that every Canadian can get the help they need when they need it. Also, through the support of the federal government, we were able to expand funding to over 870 seniors organizations, serving hundreds of thousands of isolated seniors through the New Horizons program for seniors. And through the Emergency Community Support Fund, we were able to fund over 5,260 community programs across the country through the Emergency Community Services Fund. So with that as context, there's really about 5 key messages that I'd like to share with you. The first one is that our community services infrastructure in Canada has really stepped up to meet the needs of Canadians. But I also want to let you know that these organizations are also under great stress and they need your support. We know that, and we've heard this consistently over the course of the year, that demand for services has increased. And not only has it increased, it has stayed elevated throughout the pandemic. We know that revenues are declining amongst community service organizations by an average of over 40%. Some of it's due to lost donations and some of it is due to losses in earned revenue. And we also know that costs are going up. Social distancing, PPE, safety requirements, and also the loss of volunteers who don't have the same capacity to participate due to health and safety issues. The third point I'd like to raise is certainly I've heard this, but programs like the Canadian Employment Wage Subsidy Program have been tremendously helpful to charities and community services organizations. It has helped them protect staff positions in the face of declining revenues, and we know and we support the fact that this program was extended until June, but we certainly also support Imagine Canada's call for a further extension of that program. And the fourth point that I think is really important, perhaps my most important point, is that our essential community services need a lifeline to the other side of this pandemic to ensure that they can continue to serve, adapt, and respond to the needs of Canadians. This is why United Way Centre Canada, but alongside the YMCA and the YWCA, Boys and Girls Clubs of Canada, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the National Association of Friendship Centers, and many others, have been calling for a COVID services or community services COVID relief fund. This fund would do a couple of things. First, it would provide a temporary 18-month operating funding program really to help bridge the gap in the operating capacity of charities and community services organizations so they can continue to serve Canadians. And the second component would be a transformation fund, a fund that can help community services invest in their capacity, whether it be technology, operating model changes, innovation in the program delivery so that they can come out the other side of this pandemic stronger and more resilient. And perhaps I'll close here. When I think about where we are in the pandemic today, if we want a strong and equitable recovery for all Canadians, we're going to need to support the very community-based and community-led organizations that support youth, that deliver childcare and after-school programs, that protect women and families experiencing domestic violence, that support our Black and Indigenous communities and people of color who are living in vulnerable circumstances. And we know that they have faced the most significant impacts of these pandemics. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Happy to answer your questions. And again, thank you for all the leadership and the support that you are also providing to Canadians every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clement. And we'll start with Mr. Poilievre. And just to remind committee, we will have to stop at about 5:20 Ottawa time to deal with the subcommittee report coming out of the subcommittee the other day. Mr. Poilievre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siddell, for your service to the country. I know you've worked extremely hard. And politics aside, you've made great sacrifices doing your job, and I hope you have health and happiness in the next phase of your life. On the issue of Canada's housing market, you said that you were wrong to predict housing prices would drop between 8 and 16%. I'm not sure you were wrong. I think you might have been early. I think there is another chapter to unfold in this story. As your data has shown, for a house to be affordable, it shouldn't. The monthly payments on it should not consume more than 30% of pre-tax income. Right now, the average house costs the average family 50% of pre-tax income. That's 2/3. That means that for the average family, the average house is 2/3 more expensive than they can afford. We have Vancouver is the second most expensive housing market in the world behind Hong Kong, and Toronto is number 6 when you compare average income to average house price. And housing prices rose record levels last year in a time when immigration was down and GDP fell by $120 billion. None of this making any sense whatsoever. That said, there are causes driven by the federal government that explain some of the story. And the one, of course, is that the Bank of Canada is printing money, pumping it into the financial system, and it's being lent out and driving up demand. But CMHC has a role here as well. You, as a mortgage insurer, are taking the risk off the lender and putting them on the taxpayer, which creates a distortion that separates risk from return. And anybody who can earn a return without a risk is going to engage heavily in the activity that produces that return. What is the total dollar value of all the mortgage debt in Canada that CMHC insures, not just through portfolio and transaction insurance, but for through other securitization and Canada mortgage bond products? The total dollar value.
That, if you'd give me a moment, I will try and I don't have that at my fingertips, but I will get it for you shortly if I may.
Sure.
Perhaps
yes.
in response to another question.
Yes, that would be just fine. What is clear, though, is that banks are overwhelmingly, instead of using covered bonds, which are basically backed up by solid and excessive collateral, they are using government-backed insurance, either by having their customers pay for it up front or by bundling up all their mortgages and getting an insurance stamp from you or Genworth and Canada Guarantee. But they are not, they are choosing to use government-backed insurance instead of using collateral. Do you not believe that this is creating a major distortion in our housing system, which allows the banks to have the profit and the taxpayers to have the risk, and housing prices to skyrocket as a result?
I don't quite agree. And thank you for your comments up front about my service. The politics aside reference I smirked at because, of course, I've served you, sir, as minister, and
yes,
and the current Liberal government as well, proudly, I should say. The mortgage insurance is required by the Bank Act, and so it's mandated by Parliament, not by CMHC. I will say that CMHC makes a significant amount of profit, or in the neighborhood of $1 billion or so a year off this business, which then is returned to the federal treasury.
Well, there's no doubt about that. The government's making lots of short-term profit, but if housing prices do drop, as you have predicted they will, and people default on their mortgages, there will be mortgage defaults. And then all of a sudden, taxpayers will be losing money paying out that default insurance to the banks and other lenders. How much do you think we could end up paying out to those who are insured by these products?
We run stress tests every year outlining a range of scenarios. We, of course, retain capital for the purposes of that, as do the other mortgage insurers. And the private mortgage insurers, in addition, have equity capital, private equity capital ahead of them. All of that is absorbed before the government would have to pay on its guarantee. And we are satisfied in our significant stress testing, which involves scenarios that are wildly more pessimistic than anything I forecasted, that we have sufficient capital on hand. OSFI regulates and oversees the other mortgage insurers, and I'm sure has satisfied themselves of the same of those two businesses.
How much have you set aside?
Our capital, it's in the many billions of dollars. Right now, I think we have around $16 billion of capital. There's also something called insurance for business losses not yet recorded. There's a couple of categories, but it's many billions of dollars.
Right. Well, I suggest you set aside.
Last question, Pierre.
I suggest you set aside many more billions of dollars, because when interest rates rise back to normal levels, trouble this way comes. And I hope that we have the many billions of dollars set aside to pay for the resulting damage. In conclusion, do you think it is fair that we have a system where the bankers get the profits, the home buyer gets the costs, and the taxpayers get all the risk?
Well, I don't think the taxpayers do get all the risk, as I said to you. By the way, in response to your prior question, mortgage insurance, we have $438 billion of those on our books, and mortgage funding or securitization is about $500 billion. That, by the way, has the credit support before it of mortgage insurance, and so our risk there is actually only the timely payment guarantee between a default and our recovery on the insurance. So it's not quite additive.
So just to Mr. Chair, if I could just conclude on that clarification. So you said you have $500 billion.
500 billion, yep.
And that is that account
of securitization timely payment guarantee through CMHC.
Right. And
that would have behind it, I'm sorry to overtalk you, would have behind it insurance for the credit exposure.
So there's some double counting, understandably.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're talking over $500 billion that taxpayers are on the hook for, could be on the hook for in the event of mass mortgage default loss.
Could be, although I do want to reassure committee members that we are very confident through our stress testing that we have sufficient capital on hand to absorb any most foreseeable losses, any foreseeable losses.
Pray that you're right.
Thank you very much. Very much, both of you. Ms. Followed by Mr. St. Marie. 6 minutes, Annie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses for your testimony before the Finance Committee this afternoon. I'm going to start with Mr. Sadal. I'd like to also congratulate you for your service and your hard work. For a minute, I thought it was an April Fool's joke because I hadn't heard anything about you, leaving your post. I'd like to wish you a great next chapter in your life, and thank you again for your service. In your testimony, you spoke about the Rapid Housing Initiative and that we exceeded the target of 3,000 units. When we're able to construct just a little bit over 4,700 permanent affordable housing units for Canadian families. Can you comment on how we were able to extend the funding of the program beyond the original targets?
And thank you for your kind remarks. By the way, I'm very proud that Romy Bowers will succeed me, a successor from inside the company, a terrific leader, and she takes over on Monday. That, of course, has been announced. Basically, it's because the provinces and territories in general, in large part, were already or were willing to support those projects to a greater extent than we expected.
Okay, great. And we also heard in your testimony that you have concerns over the housing market, as I do as well, of a potential housing bubble. And we all know that one size does not fit all. Every city is not in the same situation. Yeah. And I'm wondering, if COVID had any, play into that, and what are your concerns specifically? And what can we do to mitigate the potential downside to avoid any unintended consequences, such as creating imbalances in the housing market?
Well, we have significant imbalances in the housing market. In certain housing markets, I should say. I would say, given how prices have grown ahead of economic fundamentals, there's more risk of downside, certainly, than there is risk of upside in housing markets. And what we've done, the principal measure right now, in addition to strict underwriting, and the underwriting done in Canada is very, very strong by banks and by mortgage insurers. People should not be worried about the stability of the financial system. As I said, our banks are sound. It's homeowners we should be worried about, because when prices fall, a number of these people will be exposed to very significant losses after paying real estate fees, after paying insurance fees, and with very minimal equity. That risk of foreclosure is quite significant to homeowners, and people who lose their jobs, and younger people do tend to lose their jobs more quickly, could actually be exposed to great tragedy. And the problem is that can accelerate upon itself. Housing markets are given to boom and bust cycles. They just as they run up, they actually run down. I know we don't think that's the case, but of the 46 financial crises for which we have housing data, 2/3 of them, this is globally, were preceded by housing boom and bust cycles in real estate. So we should be worried about those homeowners, and the stress test, which is something that creates a buffer above current mortgage rates, helps protect homeowners from that. It's an extra buffer that helps protect them from that eventuality.
And I'm also concerned about the affordability aspect. So should the government of Canada be taking steps to address the rapid rise in housing prices, especially in certain urban areas? And how does that look over the short term and long term?
That, I'm afraid, is a question for the government of Canada and the ministers responsible, and the advice that I give them is secret.
Thank you for that. And I do appreciate your response. Thank you. My next question is to Mrs. Coates. I have heard from my own constituents, the independent travel agents in my own riding of Vimy, time and time again, that they feel that your sector is the forgotten sector. I truly would like to find a solution to help them, because I think it's a great service that you offer, and it would really be a shame that the support that you need is not there. you mentioned in your testimony that one of the recommendations is for the government to start or to create a $200 million special fund for travel agents. Could you expand a little bit on that recommendation? What would you like to see in that program? How would it work, if you've put any thoughts? Because I think it's an interesting suggestion. If you could just share with us and expand a little bit on that.
Brenda's going to answer that question.
Hello there. Thank you very much for the question. We are told by ACTA, which is the Association for Canadian Travel Agencies, which is a little bit different than us, that there's $8.5 billion in future travel credits out there, which equals $200 million in commissions that are currently sitting. Either 15% of those right now have already back. So travel agencies and independent advisors have already paid those. But the following 85%, if those future travel credits get converted to refunds, they would also be clawed back from us. So we're asking for that fund to be set up so that initially advisors can go to the fund to apply for a refund for the 15% that have already been clawed back, and then moving forward that the airlines and their subsidiaries, their tour operator companies such as Air Canada Vacations, WestJet Vacations, would be able to go to that fund instead of coming back to us for refunds of the commissions.
Sorry, Annie, we're going to have to move to the next questioner, Mr. St. Marie, followed by Mr. Johns.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. Donc, bon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all of our witnesses. Thank you for your presentations. This is an especially interesting panel. Ms. Slater, Ms. Coates, Ms. Wilson, the situation that you and your colleagues find yourselves in is terrible. We certainly hope that the government will be able to find solutions for you. And by the way, the documents that you sent to us contain many solutions, so be reassured that you will be heard. Mr. Siedel, the CEO of Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, until recently, I would also like to salute you and to thank you for the work that you've accomplished, and I wish you all the best for what comes next. I would also like to thank all of your teams who have worked so hard during the pandemic. And I must come back to a point that you raised. On last May 19th, now almost a year ago, you appeared before the committee, and we had in fact spoken about the forecasts. And I had put some questions to you. I mentioned that several economists expect that housing prices would rise. And of course, I hope that your forecasters have learned from this crisis. It's always difficult to do forecasts, but once again, thank you very much for all of the work that you accomplished. Ms. Saint-Onge, Mr. Laflamme. So once again, when you testify before the committee, it's always disturbing. Now you're saying that 2/3 of self-employed workers in culture find themselves in psychological distress. Only 1/3 of these have access to CERB or have applied for CERB, which is very disturbing. Related to that, all of self-employed workers now are experiencing difficulties. The president of the Quebec Association, in fact, spoke about this and mentioned the same problems with CRB. And it was mentioned that as soon as there was a minor issue, an inquiry or an investigation would be open. It would take months before any solutions were arrived at. Could you perhaps speak to that? And also, how do you see that there's a link between the high level of psychological distress and the lack of resources provided for by the current existing programs? Let me begin with your second question. In my mind, this precariousness that cultural sector self-employed workers find themselves in is such that they were unable to set aside enough savings to continue to overcome these periods of crisis. And the programs are ending. It's without precedent, and yet it's something that our members see every day for workers in the culture sector because we work on a project-to-project basis. And what has become obvious in our minds is that this precariousness of our workers simply cannot last. And the pandemic was the evidence that really highlighted how difficult this is. The CERB was extremely useful. A CRB is less useful, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Laflamme to speak to the problems of the Canada Recovery benefit, but we believe that we need to work on the underlying social economic position that these workers find themselves in. After all, 40% are considering simply leaving the industry. That's very worrisome, and I know that there are labor shortages in other industries, but we certainly don't want to have any shortages in the agriculture business either, or in tourism, in our sector. Mr. Laflamme. Well, very quickly now, I had brought together the CRB issues under two main categories. First of all, there is the unpredictability issue. The revenues of the workers in this industry varies greatly. There will also be issues when it comes to filing one's taxes and when you have to calculate the amounts that need to be reimbursed. Of course, people who are planning for this can ask a number of questions, but that will be an issue. As well, there isn't a lot of clarity as to how the program is applied. And this was mentioned earlier. There's also the notion of having to search for a job. As you know, for employment insurance, there is the notion of employment that is not well defined. Some people do not have to accept jobs that are in an area that differs from their qualifications, but under the CRB, the rules aren't as clear. Self-employed workers, after all, this is a new program. So again, the way that CRA presents the conditions isn't always very clear either. And another issue is, of course, the length of the program, because technically it is to end in June. And no doubt this will unfortunately have to be extended. On that note, just before you, we heard from the representatives of the Association of Quebec Tourism Industries, and they had asked for more predictability. They want these programs to be extended at the very least until 2022, but that it should be announced. And for CRB, you mentioned that it should be extended as long as required. And do you believe that it would be good if the government could announce this for the sectors that you represent? Do you want to see this extended until 2022 as of the budget that we expect to see in 2 weeks from now? Well, that would be very good news if it could be extended for longer, for us to have predictability and also to understand where we need to focus in order to establish a social safety net for self-employed workers. So yes, absolutely. The longer it lasts, the better. And that really is the basic question you've raised. Well, I'll come back to it during my next round of questioning.
We'll have to move on. Mr. Johns, followed by Ms. Jensen. Gord?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Siddell, I know the government's celebrating the 4,777 units for the Rapid Housing Initiative. I'm sorry, I live in Port Alberni, and we have lost so many people every week to suicide, overdose, substance abuse, health-related issues from being homeless. And, you know, right now with the isolation and the marginalization of people due to COVID, you know, people are struggling. They can't deal with their mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, or economic health if they have nowhere to go. And they were counting on a rapid housing application. And we know the provinces in BC's building half the non-market housing in this country. But when they got rejected, we know that the rejection means people are dying. So what percentage of people that are homeless in this country will that first round cover? And secondly, sorry, this is very emotional for me. Did you ask the minister to top up the amount that was asked for? Because it's my understanding that the requests that were in were fivefold for what was delivered.
I'm happy to respond to that question. And I'm very sorry about this. Needless to say, at CMHC, we share in this, the tragedy and the fact that the pandemic has made things worse for homeless people and has likely increased the number of homeless people. I don't know the number you're looking for. We did receive applications for about 4.5 times the project stream, which is half of the amount, $500 million. And therefore we had to say no to many more than we said yes. And we are hoping for more money under the Rapid Housing Initiative.
Did you go back to the minister and say, we've got a fivefold, application, to the envelope that was open? Will you top it up, given that we're in a crisis? Because we can find hundreds of billions of dollars for supports for people, but the homeless, we found $1 billion.
Yeah,
that's it.
The minister has all this information. He then would submit a request to the Minister of Finance for the budget, and that's between them. That's not
just to put this on record. A House It Nation, where I live, 48 people have died. Heshquit 18, a tiny little First Nation, not one of them from COVID. Almost all young people, all preventable. I'm sorry to have so much anger, but these are preventable lives that could have been saved. I'm going to switch to, Mr. Julian and I put out several calls starting in April about establishing an emergency program. And when the SECRA program was announced and eventually turned into the CERS program, we asked the government several times to backdate support for businesses who needed assistance because they couldn't access it for a number of reasons. Like it was strangely created where first you had to have a mortgage backing it. And then secondly, if your landlord didn't apply, you were exempt. Is there like an obstacle, a reason why the government can't backdate it? Because those people that didn't get help, they're going out of business right now.
Yeah, I can't give you an answer to why it can't be. That's a question for others. I can tell you that CMHC we have no ability to do retail type distribution, and we went through mortgages because our relationship is with landowners. It's with owners, and that was a program we actually could give effect to. And the government at the time, as I recall, was having a hard time trying to find a way to deliver a program. Since happened through CRA and in presumably what you think is a better way. But we were scrambling to try and get something that actually worked, and that was the constraint in which we were working.
Right, and then it got figured out, and we kicked and screamed, and the government finally figured it out. So they figured it out, but now they won't backdate it for those people that got excluded. Why?
I can't answer that question. That's not within my expertise.
Okay. Now the handling of the contract on the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy Program to MCAP. What was the process for that? The company that engages in commercial mortgages to receive the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy Program and administrative contact, it was an $84 million contract. And how was the stipulation that was put in place for that? Originally, of course, it was for rent assistance that was tied to commercial mortgages, as I outlined. So there's a clear conflict of interest. Could we get information and reply on how that contract was given?
I think we've disclosed this. We talked to, so realized this had to happen very quickly, and CMHC didn't have the ability to do it. We engaged in a competitive process with two firms, and we selected the low bidder.
Have you had any discussions with the government, who would have been best suited for the program? Obviously, the concerns politically around this.
Yeah, we selected the two firms that we thought had the capacity to do it. It was a very technical process. And required expertise, it required risk management, and these were the two firms that could do it, and that's why we went to them. The fact that they're in the business, you would say presents a conflict, but if we went to somebody otherwise, they couldn't do the job.
Last question, Gord.
Okay, Ms. Coates, your organization is a fairly new one. Thank you for the work you're doing, by the way, that's organized as a direct result of the pandemic, and I'm working with other organizations that are in similar situations, certainly startups that are being ignored and that have been abandoned, and sole proprietors such as that that have had difficult barriers to get access to programs. Can you talk about your communication with government and how responsive they've been to your needs and concerns?
Ms. Coates?
Thank you for that question. We have had many meetings with members of parliament and senior policy advisors and a few ministers. We are not getting the answers that we would like. We're being told that we are, with regards to commission recalls, we're being told that we are being considered, but we aren't being told when that will happen or how we are being considered. So we're concerned and have a lot of anxiety that we are still going to be falling through those cracks.
Thank you all. Turning then to Ms. 5-minute rounds, Ms. Jansen and then Mr. Fregaskatis.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask my questions to the independent travel advisors. First off, just the fact that so many of my colleagues have asked you questions is just a testament to the work that you have been doing on behalf of your members. Absolutely amazing, ladies. Good on ya. Now, you refer to sector-specific aid. What other countries are doing this?
I'll address that if I may.
Go ahead, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you for the question. So Australia is one of the countries that we have focused on, and they introduced a $128 million aid package that was specifically targeted for travel advisors and tour arrangement service providers back in December, after it became apparent that to their government that the sector was in crisis, exactly as we are. So Australia has been refunding their customers for trips canceled due to COVID, and their government recognized this need for support due to the practice of commission recalls from airlines and travel suppliers. As they've worked through this process, they realized the scope of refunds was wider than initially believed. So they've allocated an additional $130 million in a second round of the program. So this type of funding is something that we feel is going to be critical for all travel advisors across the country should consumer refunds go ahead as expected. And if our request that stipulation to be added to an airline bailout package for travel advisor commissions be protected is not met.
Okay. Now, why do you say that you're not able to access any federal funding for small business? I mean, my goodness, we've got CEBA, we got HASCAP, we got Regional Recovery Relief Fund. This makes no sense to me. These were all supposed to be worked out on your behalf. Like that was the point of these, and yet you say you can't actually access them?
That's correct, and I'll address that. With the CEBA loan, one of the hurdles for us and roadblocks is that you have to have $40,000 minimum non-deferrable expenses. As sole proprietors, we don't meet that benchmark, and so we are precluded from that fund. Then they introduced the Regional Recovery Relief Fund, which was designed for small businesses that are falling through the cracks. But what we discovered is if you are in a rural area, you can apply through your CDC office for that fund, and you are able to get the funding. But if you are in an urban area, it gets redirected to FedDev, and you have to be incorporated for that. So we have half of our members that are not able to access that. We actually met with some of this Assistant Deputy Ministers of Small Business and Innovation and Development earlier this month, and they kept saying to us, well, you should be taking advantage of the HASCAP loan. Like, it's great. It's like up whatever the amount is at 4%. It's a wonderful loan. And our response was, we've been 1 year without revenue. How do you expect us to pay loan payments on a 4% loan? That does not make sense for us to be going into more debt. We're already in debt as it is, up to our eyeballs.
Yeah, and not only that, at 4%. Oh my goodness, everybody knows we can't even afford that for the government. I have a question. Ms. Freeland, she announced on, I believe it was Women's Day, that there's this fantastic task force on women in the economy. Have you heard of this task force?
I would like to answer that one if I may.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little confused. There's a task force for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, we're not aware of that. Sorry, I'm a little bit thrown. We're not aware of that, and we actually met with her senior policy advisor on Tuesday. So, and nothing was said about that at that time either. So we would be very interested in learning more about this.
Wow, that's crazy. You guys have been such warriors, and yet you are not even aware of this task force. I know I thought it was a bit of lip service because she announced it on the Women's Day, and then she hadn't even had a meeting yet. And this has been going on for months and months. Just
last
one
question, Tamara.
Okay. Can you give specifics on how travel restrictions are impacting your business?
Yes. Well, it's because the government is imposing travel restrictions that we are being hindered from operating our business. And so we believe that the government, because they're the ones imposing the restrictions, they need to step in, provide support to us while they continue to keep our businesses shut down.
Wow. I agree.
Okay, we will have to end that round there. Mr. Fragascatas, followed by Mr. St. Marie.
Thank you, Chair. My first question will go to Mr. Siddle. Mr. Siddle, I share the sentiment of all my colleagues. Thank you for serving the country in the way that you have over these years, and I wish you nothing but good things in the future. I want to ask you a question relating to interest rates, seeing as though they will remain at very low levels well into the future, historic lows that we've seen since the onset of the pandemic. But the Bank of Canada and its governor has hinted that there won't be an increase until the economy is really rebounding, and we don't know exactly when that will be, although I was interested yesterday when the parliamentary budget officer offered a projection that is very positive. But again, we just don't know. Given that, is it safe to assume that housing prices will continue to increase with such low interest rates? And what does that mean for the average Canadian? I can tell you in my community of London, Ontario, the average home price since 2015 has increased nearly 150%. It's week after week. I talk to real estate agents. I talk to constituents. They're being priced out of the market. Real estate agents can't keep up. There's such demand for homes that home inspections are a thing of the past. That's not happening anymore. I just wonder, and I'm putting a number of things to you, but I guess if you're going to focus on one thing, how sustainable is this situation given that interest rates are likely to remain very low for, well into the foreseeable future?
Thank you for your kind remarks and for your question. My sincere answer is we just don't know. And clearly, my predictions in the past have not proven to be true, so I need to be careful when I make forecasts. Interest rates clearly are one factor. And indeed, the Bank of Canada's interest rates are interesting but not determinative because most mortgages are 5-year mortgages, and those are funded actually in 5-year term by banks. And so while that's related to the bank's policy, it's not exclusively the result of bank policy. Of course, there are other factors: supply of housing, immigration or lack of immigration, behavioral changes in terms of what markets people want to buy and sell in, and then frankly, psychology. And the thing that I'm most worried about, and in this respect, I echo Governor Macklin's comment that extrapolative expectations, which is, people thinking this goes on forever, is clearly not sustainable and something we should be worried about.
No, and obviously there are a number of factors that influence housing prices, but if I was going to focus on one thing, I did want to ask you about interest rates, but thank you very much for expanding on that in your answer. I have limited time and I'd love to continue the discussion, but I do want to put a question to Mr. Clement. Mr. Clement, thank you for the work that United Way has done. We're quite fortunate in the London area to have a wonderful United Way that commits itself in so many different ways and has really achieved a great deal, especially during the pandemic. Your key message to us as a committee, you brought a number of things forward, but what do you want to leave us with, and what can we recommend to the government? A major gap that exists right now that ought to be filled. What can we share with the government on your behalf?
First, that pandemic demand for need for community services is staying at record highs. We've got a gap between the revenues and the capacity of organizations and their ability to deliver. So what does that tell us? What that tells us is, we've had some great programs up to this point, but a lot of them are expiring and the need is still there. So my fourth point was really about this need for a community services COVID relief fund, a program that will actually fill that gap. And the gap is about people not being able to get access to the services that they need because the infrastructure of community services is stretched and the gap between their capacity and their demand has grown. So that Community Services COVID Relief Fund, a combination of operating support to fill that gap. And I think it's really important for us to also invest in the future. Our community services operate on very thin margins. They don't build reserves. They put their dollars and efforts right into the community. They don't have the capacity to invest in technology and change. And the pandemic's all about identifying the change and innovation. How do we actually bring that into the future? So that would be my request, my ask, and I think would go a long way to supporting communities.
Thank you very much. I know that Imagine Canada has also put similar ideas to this committee, but to the government as well through various policy papers. So I look forward to seeing where that engagement goes. Mr. Chair, if you'll indulge me, are we able to?
I'm sorry, you are out of time.
Next time.
And we will try and get 4 more people on. So we'll go to 1 question each from Mr. St. Marie, Mr. Johns, Mr. Kelly, and Ms. Zerowitz. Mr. St. Marie.
Oui, merci, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne. Mrs. Saint-Onge, I would like to point to the last part of your presentation. The government is still there on the web, but things have to change. I just want to hear you speak to this. What should the government do in order to ensure that those who work in culture can earn more than the low wages they're currently earning? How do they come out of this precarious situation? We need to have some kind of wage replacement mechanism because in the cultural milieu, it is always temporary. It's contract-based. That's the first point. Secondly, a lot of public money has already been invested in culture, but unfortunately, it stagnates for decades, and there is indexation. It isn't adequate. And then we have to ensure that there are criteria and eligibility criteria for each programs to make sure that the money actually makes it to those that it is intended to help. And that is one of the concerns we've shared. And the same is true for the COVID relief programs to make sure that they reach the right people. And in our minds, that is of vital importance. So if you repeat it often enough, it might end up working. Thank you. We certainly hope so, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both. Mr. Johns.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Siddall. I know I came hard with those questions, and I do want to congratulate you on your retirement. Thank you for your work. The Reaching Home funding, it's run out. Our warming center is going to be closing or has no support. We're in a 3rd wave. These people are getting kicked out on the street now. Is there going to be another round? And I do want to thank Mr. Clement because I got to say the United Way has been amazing, unbelievable at getting resources to these community organizations and supporting those people throughout the day, although they have nowhere to go at night. But maybe you can speak to, is there going to be another round?
Who's that to?
Directed to me?
For Mr. Siddall, and it's like the Bread of Life in my community. Literally, they're saying, we don't know what to do.
First of all, you don't owe me an apology. You're speaking on behalf of people who are really hurting, and thank you for saying so, but you do not owe me an apology for that. Reaching Home is done actually through our cousin at ESDC, and whether or not they get funding, actually, I don't know. It's a question for the Department of Finance and the budget.
Okay, thank you both. Then to Mr. Kelly, followed by Ms. Zerowitz. Pat?
Thank you, and I too will join all and wish you the best in retirement, Mr. Siddall. Quickly then, there are reports about this contract that was given to researchers at the University of British Columbia by CMHC. You had denied the accuracy of such reports. Was such a contract given? Do you favor or do you think that it's a worthy undertaking to study the question of taxing capital gains, and would this be your advice to this government to explore that?
So yeah, and I was accused of lying, in fact, a media cover-up on this stuff. So the question of tax policy is not for us; it's for Finance Canada. It's been alleged that a program, something called a Solutions Lab, that we funded, the primary focus of which was a home equity tax policy. That is patently false. They certainly do identify inequities that exist in generations in this Solutions Lab proposal, and the proponents suggest that that's been aggravated by tax policy. But very clearly in the project charter that we signed and funded, that was part of the problem definition. The idea of these solutions labs is to have an open-ended conversation about solutions. And the project charter itself identifies fiscal and tax policy solutions, a very wide open opportunity to explore possibilities. The suggestion that we have been researching a home equity tax is false. The documents do not suggest it, and it is misleading and irresponsible reporting to say so.
Okay, that covers that one, I guess, Pat. Ms. Serwitz, you'll have to wrap it up because we do have to deal with the subcommittee report yet.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say huge thanks to everyone for their excellent presentations. This was extraordinarily informative and very important. I too want to sort of lend my congratulations over to Mr. Siddall. Thank you so much for your extraordinary service to our nation, and also best of luck on your next move. And I want to say a huge thank you for the answer to the question that Mr. Kelly posed. People in my riding will be super happy that you've clarified that very, very well. My question is actually to the other three groups that are part of our panel today. The reality is that the world of work has been changing quite rapidly. So this happened before the pandemic and is continuing even after the pandemic. The world will not look the same after this pandemic as we come out of it. And so the question for me is, how is it that our federal government can be helping with the transitions? So the travel industry is going to change. The world for artists in the cultural sector will change, and also how sort of our nonprofits will be serving our communities will change as well. So our federal government's attempted a couple of things. So we've introduced $1.5 billion in workforce development, so training and retraining programs. There's also an idea on the table. This is not proposed formally by our government, by a number of people, though, broadly in our society, though, that maybe a new model for our social welfare system should be some sort of a guaranteed basic income. Are these the right ideas? And if not, what might you propose? So who would like to respond to that?
Who do I see? Does anybody want to take that one on, Mr. Clement? It's an area probably for you.
Ms. Coates as well.
Yeah, there were a few different ideas there, but the world is changing. One of the things, and it's a bit of the long game, but the charitable sector needs a home in government. We need a relationship where we're talking about jobs in the nonprofit sector, investment in employment and training, like we're 8% of GDP. We don't have a home in government. There's several million that work in the nonprofit sector. We don't have, a coherent HR strategy. So there are tremendous opportunities, but I think there's also a long game of how do we build a relationship between government and the nonprofit sector that actually starts to look at employment, talent, technology investments in the sector so that it can be both a really impactful support to communities, but also a place where Canadians can find a great, meaningful, purpose-based employment. So I'd offer that as one conversation. I think it's a long conversation that we need to have. It's been a long time coming, but it will be an important part of the long-term strategy of change.
Thank you. Ms. Coates, I think you had something.
Yes, Ms. Coates, I think you wanted to add in something there.
Thank you. We need the government to restore hope to Canadians. And we need the government also to work towards restoring the travel industry and a recovery of the travel industry. And what we are seeing is the opposite. There was just a new a campaign that went out onto social media saying, stay home, stay in Canada, stay safe. And the caption above it said, now is not the time to book travel. And here we are, we've already been locked down for a year without being able to book travel for our clients who want to travel, and they're wanting to travel in 2022, 2023, but the government is telling them now is not the time to book travel. So we need that to be turned around, and we need the government to work on the recovery of travel and tourism, and we would like a seat at that table. We believe travel advisors have an important voice. We understand the culture, and so we want to have a seat at that table.
Et Monsieur le Président, Madame Clinton, j'avais levé pour répondre à la question aussi.
Sometimes around this committee. Go ahead.
Pas de problème, je vais faire ça très, très rapidement. Mais
I'll be very quick. There's the issue of a minimum wage and to change EI to help self-employed workers. These are all projects that need to be implemented. Regarding culture, culture will stay once we go back to the cinemas and other places. We'll still have shows, but what's important is to keep the people who work in culture now, because 40% of these workers are considering leaving their jobs because it is already very precarious and the crisis is just the straw that broke the camel's back. So it's all about Canadian identity, about our social fabric, it's about our values. And this is a huge issue. If the cultural sector loses its artists, its artisans, and doesn't have new generations, this is going to substantially change Canada.
Thank you very much to all of you and your answers to that question. But and we will have to end the panel here. As you can see, there's many complex issues for sure, and just relating to some of Gord John's remarks, the difference to being in Ottawa and being in the riding is people walk through these doors and they're in tears. It's that simple. And so, although we talk about dollars and cents and budgets and so on, at the end of the day, there's real lives that matter. So I do want to thank you all for your presentations today, and to you, Mr. Siddell. Look, as others have said, just on behalf of the committee, we want to thank you for your service over the years, for the team that worked with you, and certainly wish you well in future. You've done a wonderful job. You put in your best, and I would imagine you put in some pretty long hours during the last few months, as have a lot of other people on here too. So we thank you for your service. So with that, we will go to a bit of committee business. The panelists are relieved. Again, thank you for your presentations, your concerns, and your suggestions. Thank you, and have a happy Easter. Okay. To the clerk has sent out the fourth report of the subcommittee on agenda and procedure, and it is there before you. But maybe I'd just better read through it and see if we have agreement from the committee. It is open for discussion. Your subcommittee met on Wednesday, March 31st, to consider the business of the committee and agreed to make the following recommendations. 1, that the committee continue and expand its study on COVID-19 spending and programs to include additional topics such as quantitative easing, renaming the study as COVID-19 spending programs and related monetary policy, and that the analysts provide the committee with a list of witness proposals presented to the committee during its study in order to assess the need for an interim report. And that maybe means during its study to date, if we're going to do an interim report. That that the witnesses for expanded COVID-19 expenses study be provided to the clerk before 5 p.m. on Thursday, April 8th. That's next week. That the committee set aside time to debate the motions of Peter Julian on tax evasion and Julie Zerowitz on interprovincial trade barriers. That just goes to show we couldn't come to an agreement on the subcommittee. That the committee not meet during the week of April 5 to 9 next week to give everyone a break, including translators, clerks, and analysts. 5, that the committee hold a meeting to study the main estimates and invite the Minister of Finance and senior officials. 6, that the Budget Implementation Act, that when the Budget Implementation Act arrives at committee, it take precedence over any other committee business. 7, that the committee adopt the 2 following motions of Mr. St. Marie. They're fairly lengthy. I'll not go through, just other than to explain them, that that with the various agencies, BDC, EDC, Canada Mortgage and Housing, OSFI, and the Bank of Canada provide reports to the Finance Committee on a monthly basis on liquidity issues, etc. And the second one, basically the same motion, but provide a report to the Finance Committee, similar to what we were getting over last summer from the Department of Finance on a monthly basis, but to ensure that the report includes program amount concerning health and security expenses linked to COVID-19, direct support measures to business and people, subcategorized sector for sector support, government liquidity measures, and government extraordinary borrowing operations. So that is the report. Does somebody want to move it, and we can get into discussion?
Son adoption.
Moved by Gabriel Sainte-Marie. Is there any discussions or questions? All okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So there ends the meetings, and we actually got a week off from committee. Can you imagine that? So thank you all for all your hard work, and wish everybody a happy Easter, coming from the Easter Bunny here.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter, Mr. Easter.
Joyeuse Pâques, Gabrielle.
Yes.
Oui,
Take care.
Pâques tout le monde.
Have a
Merci
great
tout le monde.
week, all. Great working with you all. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye.
Bye-bye.